Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phonogenics 101. The world's falling apart, but our world is not, because we're here to talk about Joni Mitchell. Sadly, we're entering the home stretch of these Joni Mitchell discussions, which kind of makes me depressed, because covering new ground with these folks has been one of the highlights of the last couple of years of my life. So at least we have the archive series coming out every year where we will be able to meet and discuss. In the meantime, we are going back to 2000 to talk about Joni Mitchell's orchestra album, Both Sides Now. Before we get into the album, let me go around and introduce the panel. And my upper left always is Bob Mueller.
Hey, Bob Mueller in very sunny and warm South Carolina. So my little bit of trivia for this record is in '98 when I saw Joni in Atlanta, I talked to her about Hejira specifically and talked about how Blue Motel Room was a standard, and she said, no, I don't think so, because it has that line about Russia and America. And I said, well, yeah. I said, when a line dates a song and puts it in a specific spot, that's a standard. Mm. And she said, it's funny you talk about standards because I'm thinking about making a record of standards. Oh, that was in '98. And of course, now it's 2000. And she did a record of standards.
So Bob, the whole thing's your fault? It's all your fault.
No, she had it in the plans anyway. I mean, she did this Stormy Weather concert with a full orchestra where she duetted with Bjork, and she did Stormy Weather at that show. Mm-hmm. And I think she loved it so much she decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So she did this album, and it's a beautiful record. I don't like it. No fault of the record. It's just not in my wheelhouse of what I want to listen to. Having said that, Linda Ronstadt's orchestrated standards version, I was in love with. Harry Nilsson set the bar very high back in the 70s. Absolutely. With a little touch of Schmilson in the Night and those arrangements. This one didn't hit the mark for me. I don't think it's for me. It's not what Joni does for me. I mean, she's a composer first and a singer second. And while she loved it and the album is brilliant and beautiful, it just didn't do for me what it does for a lot of other people. And that's just a me thing. It doesn't harm the album in any way whatsoever.
Bob, I agree with you, but I'm going to wait till my turn at the end. You know what other Sanders album I love, though, and everyone's probably going to make fun of me, is I loved Carly Simon's Torch album. I thought there was some really great stuff on there.
Good record.
Too. Yeah.
Much better than both sides now. All right. Next we have Paz. Michael Paz.
Hi, Michael Paz, New Orleans here. I love this record since it came out. I loved the hat box. I loved everything about it. Vince Mendoza, geez. His arrangements of this stuff to me are brilliant, and I love the orchestration. I think I drove my family crazy playing the record. The night it got in, we were having dinner at home, and I played it during dinner, and subsequently probably every dinner after that for months. So I'm sure I was asked, "Hey, Dad, when's Joni's new album coming out? Can we change the goddamn album?" So I will say that I know that this was probably triggered by the whole thing with Don Henley and the AT&T Walden Pond thing and her version of Stormy Weather on there. For me, when I think about the relationship that she had with Klein over the years, him getting the musical director credit on this album was significant for me. And I wonder if that's, I hear Joni all over this record. I hear in her inflections, I hear, to me, I think that the arrangements already had to have been done by the time she did her vocals. So I think that there was probably some meetings between her and Klein and Mendoza over cocktails or whatever, in a secret room or whatever. And her influence over the production and direction and arrangements of this album was prevalent from the beginning. And I referred to when Sue and I were just in Vegas, we felt that same way about what we heard from the cast of characters at the Music Cares thing, because a lot of those things, I mean, what John Batiste did and all of these people, to me, I think if you listen to Joni's music, maybe you're smart enough to come up with arrangements like they did. But to me, it really felt like, you know what, I feel like they spent some time with her in the room, and her influence was heavy. With that said, the only other thing I can say is before the album, before I actually heard the album, I had the good fortune to work with the Yellow Jackets at a show here in New Orleans, on a casino boat. And my friend was friends with Ferrante from the Yellow Jackets, who worked with Joni. And Peter Erskine was on the gig. And so when I was introduced to him, I said, "Hey man, I heard about about this Joni album that's coming that you're on." And I said, "Tell me, what's up with it?" And of course, he told the story about the orchestra, the string section, specifically coming to tears when the first version, the first take of A Case of You was done. And that had a heavy impact on me. And of course, the first time I heard that version, for me, it's as powerful as her first version. It's equally as good a version of that song. I mean, I think only Joni could do something like that as powerful twice. And of course, the adult version, the older version, to me, it's kind of a grown-up record, and that's kind of the way I feel about the record all the way through. It reminds me of a lot of the stuff that my parents used to listen to, Dean Martin and Perry Como and Gene Krupa and all those things that they used to play at home. So, anyways, that's sort of my overall vision of this record, and I love it. And I know a couple of you don't love it as much, but maybe you'll grow up one day and you'll be an adult and you'll like it.
I'll have to stay awake through the whole album before I can decide. Okay. Hey, and before we go to my next guest, one thing I did not know until I was researching this album is that she had a song on Kyle Eastwood's album, her version of Trouble Man.
Oh.
Which kind of led up to this album, right? A little bit. Now, I thought that was amazing. That was everything that I wanted from Joni.
Great version.
I heard her
Yeah, it's killer.
I heard her do that version at the Back to the Garden. I was blown away, man.
When I heard that, I was like, now this is what I'm looking for.
Incredible.
She does it on Painting with Words and Music, too, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What year was that, Sue?
It was 1998.
So all of that happened in 1 year?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like the vibe of that one in the stormy weather kind of paved the way for this to happen.
And she also sang Summertime at that concert, which was
unbelievable. That was from
a story about that, but I don't want to go on and on. But
that was from Gershwin's World, right?
Yeah, Gershwin's World's another one that was really those tracks.
Is that Herbie Hancock?
I think she did Comes Love.
That and The Man I Love.
As she was singing it, a V of a chevron of Canadian geese flew over the stage.
Oh, wow.
It was just such an incredible, you could hear the crowd go, oh, it was just amazing. It gave me chills.
All right. My next panelist is Mark Scott.
Well, I am in Shoreline, Washington, which is just to the north of Seattle. As I remember when this record came out, a few people, and I think Bob Mueller was one of them, said they would have liked it a lot better if she had just done it with a small jazz combo. And in retrospect, and after reading a few things about it, yeah, that would have been really, really cool. But it wasn't what she was after. It's been mentioned the Walden Woods benefit, and several other women sang on that. Stevie Nicks, and I think Sheryl Crow, Paula Cole. She wanted to record an album of standards with an orchestration, and I even read something where she said, if you're thinking of the Linda Ronstadt or the Carly Simon, then that's not what this is. And she also said that she pretty much left the production up to Klein because she just wanted to go into the studio and sing. She didn't want to do anything else. But I agree that the orchestrations are made for Joni Mitchell. And I actually heard I was looking through YouTube and listened to a version of Stormy Weather that Lena Horne did, that her husband, Lenny Hayton, orchestrated. And that reminded me more of Both Sides Now than something that Nelson Riddle might have done with Frank Sinatra or with Linda Ronstadt or whoever. And she said that she was looking for more like something of Duke Ellington or Debussy. You know, she was looking more of a classical jazz or a classical sound with this, and not so much swing. Anyway.
All right. Next we have Sue Tierney.
Hi, I'm Sue, and I'm from Ithaca, New York, in the beautiful Finger Lakes. It's getting nice around here right now. So I went on the internet this morning because it was driving me crazy. I knew that so many people had done standards around the same time, and we just talked about a couple of them. But in honor of Dylan's birthday, I just want to say that I did not know that he did a 3-album set of standards called Triplicate. Has anybody heard this album?
No.
I never have.
Neither.
I mean, he's got so many different albums, but that's a true thing, I guess. And also, Rod Stewart at the time did one. And
his were terrible. Those were awful.
They were awful.
Brian Ferry.
Yeah, and so this article I found was in Pitchfork, and it's here are the 8 standard albums that are actually worth hearing, and Joni is in there. So is the George Michael one, which I think would be pretty good. I love George Michael's voice.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And I've never heard a lot of these. Of course, the Nilsson one is really great. What was the other one here?
You like that one, Bob?
Oh, it's a wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great record.
And they really, if you watch the documentary, he got a lot of crap for that, but it's really great. And then the other one is Ricky Lee Jones did one.
Oh yeah.
And who else
is that? Pop Pop?
Yeah, I think it is. I'm trying to look here.
He was actually really good at Jazz Fest, y'all, by the way.
Yeah, Pop Pop is right. And Willie Nelson did Stardust, and I don't know why, but they're saying Sinead O'Connor's "Am I Not Your Girl" is a standards album.
Yeah, it is.
Really? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. And George Michael, and then Joni, and they just write a beautiful review of Joni's. They just loved it. So yeah, and I have to be honest and say that I do really enjoy listening to this album when I listen to it, and I haven't listened to it that many times, but I do. I really love At Last. I think At Last is my favorite. I mean, I don't know. I mean, all the songs. I love standards anyway. I love to hear, like, I hear all the old crooners, when I hear these songs, like, Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, and of course, all the old time women singers too, Ella Fitzgerald and anybody. I mean, I loved those. I listened to Ella Fitzgerald albums a lot when I was younger. So, and I think the music sounds great. I think it's just, the orchestration's gorgeous. It's just so lush, so I think this is a fabulous album.
All right, next we have David.
Hi, I'm David Phillips. I am in New York right now. And I remember, working late at night and listening to the local radio and hearing the cuts from Gershwin's World, and the DJ like introduced them by saying, you cannot guess who this is. And then he played them, and I thought, oh my God, that's Joni. And so I called the DJ and said, "That's Joni. I need this. Where is it? Who is it? What is this?" And he said it was from the new Gershwin's World album. But so it was so different. It was such a new voice, for me hearing her, and I loved it immediately. And I actually didn't take to the album that much. As soon as it came out, I got the little hat box. And I listened to it, and then it got to Both Sides Now, and I wept, and I thought, I cannot believe that Both Sides Now is making me weep, because Both Sides Now, I mean, how many times have you fucking heard Both Sides Now? And it's never been one of my favorite Joni songs at all, ever. I just don't like it that much. But God, this version ripped my heart out. So anyway, I don't listen to it much. I've been listening to it in the past week, and I have been enjoying the vocals and the orchestration a lot. So that's it.
All right, Ruben.
Hi, I'm Ruben Bell. I'm from Biddeford, Maine, just a little north of Kennebunkport. And I actually like this album. I didn't remember that I liked this album. I don't think I've listened to it in 20 years at least. But I played it a couple times this week, and then I listened to it in the car. I had a long drive this afternoon. And I too, David, wept at the end of Both Sides Now. What a song that is. And it's never been one of my favorite Joni songs either, and her version of it is definitely not my favorite. I always liked Judy Collins' better, but this version of Both Sides Now just hits you right in the gut, at least with me. And it's so, to me, it's so just devastatingly sad. And we're all getting older. We're all gonna die. Everything's winding up. That's kind of how it feels to me. And I don't know. I love it. I listened to it twice, but I don't know. I was excited when this came out. I went and bought the chocolate box, which I still have somewhere in my basement. And I don't know. It just kind of came and went for me. It didn't stick with me. I liked it. I have liked it every time I've listened to it, which has been infrequently. And I was pleasantly surprised at how much I liked it, because in my mind, I decided that I didn't for some reason. I don't know why, but I do. It's a great record, and I love standards. So that wasn't a challenge for me. I did not know all of these songs when I heard this record. There were 3 or 4 that were new to me, and I don't know. I think she did a great job with this. It was an interesting project, something totally different from what I was expecting from her at the time. But yeah, I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks.
All right, up next we have Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris Cuccaro. I'm just north of New York, in Westchester County. Wow. I have a really kind of long relationship with this record. It started around the same time Bob's did in 1998, because she was putting out feelers about doing a standards record. And I was at Madison Square Garden, and I was surrounded by all of these Dylan fans and celebrities and all sorts of folks sitting next to me. And I even might have asked Meryl Streep, who I did not recognize sitting in front of me. But I said, hey, she's thinking about doing Joni's thinking about doing a standards album. Would you be into that? And like all these Dylan fans, who were really there for Dylan, they were very open about it. And they were like, yeah, we'd hear that. We'd listen to that. So I put a little write-up on JoniMitchell.com, as I always did, because, and I'm going to bring up this man's name again, Jim Johansson, who was running JoniMitchell.com at that time. He kind of like did the transition after Wally passed. And he kind of kept it going for a while. And there was that whole period of time during, the Mendel exhibit and the and on all of this tour and where JoniMitchell.com seemed starved for any kind of material. I mean, the management wasn't offering Jim sort of anything, and he was reaching out to the members of the JMDL to sort of give him information. And I he, of course, he passed away too in the interim. But I just think that it's a name we don't say often enough. But I was at the Mendel. Joni was very complimentary toward Jim and actually thanked him as she inscribed his hardbound catalog with "Thanks for the web continuum." And she didn't know how to spell continuum, but I did. So now she knows how to spell continuum.
Oh.
So anyway, and she said, she had this little story. She said, I said, I said, it's got 2 U's, like vacuum. And she said, good rhyming. Like, you will ever hear that, right? So anyway, this album, because I was in New York and so much of the appearances she was doing to promote it were done in New York, I wrangled myself into a whole bunch of different things. I was at the Rosie taping. I was at Letterman. I was at the TNT thing. I mean, I did all of those on my own, but Jim did get me a photo pass to attend the second night at Madison Square Garden for the which was 22 years ago last night. I wrote up a big kind of thing on JoniMitchell.com. You can kind of find it if you look for it. But I do go into a little bit about how the orchestra is put together and what they needed to do in all the different cities they were visiting, and how difficult that must have been. There was a moment at the Rosie taping where and I don't know specifically. I tend to think that Klein was very, very hands-on with Vince on these arrangements, because they were trying, one of the 2 songs that they did at Rosie was Answer Me, My Love. And about 15, 16 bars into it, there was a problem with the charts. And they stopped everything. This was during the rehearsal, which I also got a chance to visit within. And he and Vince ran over and started looking at all the charts and collected them back from the orchestra, a couple of specific parts, and were putting their heads together really tightly to figure out what was wrong. I couldn't tell you which section it was. I can't remember what it was, but they figured it out, and it was flawless for the performance. But I would say that there was a lot of, I agree with what people have already said, which was that these arrangements are, with the exception of Stormy Weather, were hand built for Joni. I mean, her phrasing, what she wanted to, lay out, and what she wanted to, be kind of staccato. I don't think she was reactive quite so much. I think that these were really created for her. And while I like those other albums that we've mentioned, the Ronstadt, and I adore Nilsson's, I do think that this is head and shoulders above them. I think that even the choices of songs are a little offbeat. They're kind of high society kind of things, almost cinematic, from movies and things you wouldn't necessarily expect. This is not just the Nat King Cole songbook or the Ella Fitzgerald songbook redone. I think it's a brilliant record, and I am really, really, that wall of sound when it first hit me just knocked me off my feet, and it still does today. It still sounds fresh. I hear new things within the orchestra all the time. In terms of I'll save that story for later when we get to both sides now. But again, it's a great record, and I was really, really honored to be part of, getting it, helping it birth in a way as I could.
All right, Jack, you're next.
I'm probably kind of in the middle on this. I can agree with what a lot of people said, that it's not an album I think to put on. If I'm going to put on a Joni, this would probably be one of the last ones I put on. But when it's on, I enjoy it. The one's really nice memory I have of it is I had a female friend that was a big Joni compadre of mine. We would get together and listen to Joni music all the time. And we never had an opportunity to see Joni live together. Well, that's not entirely true. We did see her outdoors for the Shadow and Light tour, but 3 songs into it, there was a torrential downpour and they canceled the show. So we never really got to do a Joni concert live together. And because of this album, we got to, and it was a really special week. We had front row seats. It was a fantastic night, and a real special memory for me. So that's kind of what this album means to me. Now, are we going to talk about the dreaded hat box, or?
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Okay, because I have some things to say about that. So
I think a lot of people did. It sounds like. All right, and last but of course not least, we're glad he's here to at least make an appearance. Our friend Dave Blackburn.
Hi, everybody. I'm a bit running on one cylinder here because we came down with COVID, so but it's hard to talk. Anyway, I adore this album. It's one that I listen to a lot because I have a nice 5.1 listening room, and this is the only album of Joni's that is mixed that way. So you haven't heard it until you've heard it in surround, unless you were actually at the orchestra in live. But it's just gorgeous, and I love her voice on it. I love her choice of standards. I think that it's as mature a representation of her as an artist as anything of her, she did of her own material. It takes a different kind of artistry to interpret other people's songs when you spent 30 years doing your own, because the tendency is to always do things the way you do it. But she had to engage with this material in a different way, and of course her voice was a lot lower, like mine, by this time, so the keys were very dark, and she had to she couldn't soar like she used to. So she had to soar in a different way, and I think Vince did an amazing job of creating a bed for her to lie on. And they really spared no expense too. Going over to London, recording at Air Studios with the London Philharmonic. They're just, I think, second tier to LSO in London. But this would have been a very expensive album to make, more than any of her records. And I think they got their money's worth. I really do. I like Travelogue a lot too, but I loved hearing how she took the material from her childhood. Basically, she was born in 1943. Well, these are the kind of songs that would have been current. Some of them are 30s songs, but more or less these are the kind of songs from that era. So she was, completing her career. And it makes perfect sense to me as a career arc to return to your earliest memories of music, which would be songs with good lyrics and beautiful melodies from your dad's era or your mom's era. And they just really did it right. We know about Shades of Scarlet Conquering and Down to You, and she'd already reached into an orchestral palette before, and Shades of Scarlet was definitely back to a 1930s period. So she had already tried this, and it worked so well that I can totally see why she did it. And she just had the best of the best on it. Peter Erskine, Herbie Wayne, plus this great high-level orchestra. So I just think I think it's a beautiful record, and it's as much a Vince Mendoza album as it is a Joni Mitchell album. I'm a student of harmony, and so I just love what he's doing with the chordal aspect here. And I can see that there's stuff in this orchestration that Joni was herself reaching for with the piano and the guitar in her own work, but didn't know enough about music theory to be able to find it consistently. Sometimes she found it and it was, mind-blowing, like Paprika Plains or something. But you're having to hunt and peck when you don't really have studied the craft of it. And Vince Mendoza, of course, has studied the craft and also must be a fan of hers to begin with, to know what she can do brilliantly. And it must have been fun for him to go back to a Turner Classic Movie era of orchestration and just go for it with the, like Chris said, the wall of sound, the sweeping strings, the melodrama of it. Fabulous.
Joni said in an article or an interview that I read a couple of nights ago, I think it was, that singing with the orchestra was like surfing. Somebody asked her, and she said it was like surfing.
Yeah, I get that. It's like singing in front of a big band. Same thing. It's just there's this power, and it's you're riding this powerful motor that has been, Chris, again, created for you.
All right. Well,
Just want to bear one thing. Tonight, these arrangements are being performed in Washington at the Kennedy Center. There's a show with Renee Fleming and a whole bunch of other luminaries where they are, Vince is there conducting the orchestra for them.
all right. Well, okay. My name is Jeremy Gloff. I'm your host from Tampa, and I'm definitely in the minority because I do not really like this album. And I have my little list. I'm just going to say all the reasons I don't like it all at once. Then we're just going to move on. And everyone's going to say, maybe when we do the track by track discussion, I'll be like, oh, but this is how I feel going into this discussion. I listened to the album back in 2000. I didn't like it. And I put it on 2 nights ago. I'm like, let me listen with the headphones. I do have the surround sound version, Dave, but I don't have the speakers to go with it. So I will check that out sometime. But these are my notes, and they're going to be controversial. Number one, is anybody here a fan of The Office? The episode where Michael Scott's like, boom, roasted, boom, roasted. I feel like this is me with both sides now. Boom, roasted. Okay. Number one, in the liner notes, Joni says it's an arc of songs about a relationship. If we're already broken up by song like number 3, then going through like 8 songs of the negative, that's not an arc that I'm enjoying. Number 2, I just felt like so many of the songs were dirge-like, and I didn't really enjoy the melodies of them. It just felt like a long dirge to me. Number 3, well, many people like Joni's version of Both Sides Now. I thought Marianne Faithfull was much more effective with her redoing of As Tears Go By, in contrast to Joni's Both Sides Now. Number 4, has everyone just already unsubscribed to my Patreon? Number 4, Joni always talked about affectation throughout her career, and I just felt like her phrasing was kind of an affectation of a jet. She's like, rose and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air. I just, especially on Travelog, it got really bad with that. So that's another thing I didn't enjoy. But a lot of people liked it at the time. I remember a lot of people I hung out with had it in their collection, so it's cool that a Joni album kind of had permeated beyond the cult status like Turbulent Indigo had. So I remember this album was in a lot of my friends' collections and people were talking about it, and I like the cover art. So there we go. Both sides now. So let's go into the cover art. I remember that I read an article how Joni was thinking about doing something different and having pictures from the session on the album cover, but she decided to go with the painting. Do you all like the album cover that she went with? I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. With her heart on her sleeve.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the infamous Hatbox edition, which,
Ooh.
Jack, I feel like you had some things to say about that.
Poor Robbie Cavallina.
I just want to share what I did with my Catbox edition.
Oh my
You can
God.
see
Oh,
here.
that's nice.
But I basically framed both of the paintings along with the lyrics that were included in the Hatbox of Both Sides Now. I think it's pretty damn
Mine is completely unopened in the original shipping box. I haven't touched it.
So it probably didn't play.
What about the other prints that were there, Jack?
They're still in the box.
I see. I love what you did, though. That's gorgeous. But you're artistic.
Jack, you need to have a
used one of
double-sided.
your images for my album.
Jack, you need a double-sided frame so you can have them on both sides now.
I see what you did there.
This is what everyone's paying for. Oh, by the way, thanks to my
Jim
Patreon.
Lamadou. Hey, Jim.
Oh, finally, Jim
Hey, Jim.
Lamadou shows up.
Better late than never, I guess.
Jim, we're talking about the album cover.
Okay.
And then the only other thing I'd say about the box is, I think it was a great idea, terribly executed. Obviously the big scandal was that the box didn't hold the CD in place very well, so it would fall out, get all scratched up. I think I had to take mine back like 4 times before I finally got one that played all the way through. But
I got 2 copies. I did not experience that, but
Another collectible from the area is there's a Words and Music interview that has her tour dates on it, and it's an interview CD. So that's another cool collectible from back then.
I don't have that.
I loved the hat box. I thought that was a really cool promo piece. I love box sets. You can sell me anything in a box set, and I'll buy it. But I thought it was pretty. It was cute. The one I bought, the disc was all scratched up because it didn't hold in the box, but I had the jewel case anyway, so it didn't bother me. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was cute.
Chris, your hand is up.
It was supposed to be a candy box, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
just
have
think-
that box.
I just think props to Robbie Cavallina. I mean, I think that, whether or not the it was well executed enough to hold the disc in place, that's kind of a technical thing. But, and from a creative standpoint, I think it's very special. And, considering all the different things Robbie does, his, work as a director and a filmmaker, with motion graphics and things like that, is fantastic. And this is so very different because it's so textural and you can touch it, and it just gives the entire feeling of what the record itself might do for you. It's opulent in a way that the album is as well.
Is this the picture of her with her tongue out with Don Freed that we touched upon in the Taming the Tiger discussion?
That's right.
And Dave's gonna be taken off, but Dave, I will read you a rating at the end of the. You sent us your rating at the end, so I will include
It's
you in that.
gotta be 10 unless you're doing it out of 11.
Dave, before you go, I did have one question I wanted to ask you specifically. Yeah. What do you know about the Dolby A hiccup?
On this?
There was some kind of a Dolby A hiccup, and I don't know what it was, and I think that the tapes themselves were in jeopardy at some point, and I thought you might have some background on that.
I don't know about that. In fact, Dolby SR was the system that since the early 90s most studios were using, so
well, they used Dolby A on this, and I think it cost them some problems along the way.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that. To be honest, I don't.
Studio.
Well, this was at George Martin's Air Studios, Air Lyndhurst, which is kind of the premier studio in London, still is, along with Abbey Road. So I'd be surprised if there was a tech issue, but I'd like to know more about that.
Well, Dave, thanks for joining us, and we definitely will see you. And you and Rodman will be performing a song from Both Sides Now next month when we do the travel log. Correct?
Yes.
I hope
Wonderful.
Robin is well too. Bye.
Yes.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Love to Robin, Dave. Feel better.
Thank you.
All right. Now that Dave's gone, I'm really going to talk about how I feel about this. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Who does he think he is?
I'm just kidding.
That
All right.
idiot.
I'm so glad Dave popped in because I know he loves this album, and I was really looking forward to hear what he had to say. So I'm glad he shared it. All right, we're starting with the hands. We have Jim, and then we have Bob.
I yield my time back to my distinguished colleague from South Carolina for the moment.
Well, I mean, Dave has made mention of the fact that he has this 5.1 sound system,
Mhm.
and I was fortunate enough to listen to this record on that sound system in his house in Fallbrook, California, and the audio is magnificent. You know, that 5.1 S Super Audio CD format.
I'm gonna go grab mine. So
On the equipment that it's meant to be played on, it's really magnificent.
Yeah, I have it as well, and it really is a wonderful version.
Yeah. But the other side of that is, as Duke Ellington would say, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And a lot of this record ain't got the swing for me. You know, it sounds good, but you know, Charlie the Tuna, they don't want tuna. What with they don't want tuna with good taste. They want tuna that tastes good.
That's the New Orleans thing right there. Both
Yeah.
of the statements.
So yeah, it sounded wonderful, but it just didn't move me like it moved some of y'all. But I appreciate the opinion.
and Bob, you did stay awake through the whole album.
More often than not.
Okay, let me stop. Jim.
Okay. Let the record show that I do have the hat box, and I've opened it maybe 4 times. I agree with Bob on this one. It's not my thrill. Sorry. But
Things are about to get heated on Phonogenics. My goodness. Stop the steal.
I think mine stayed intact because it has a piece of styrofoam here to keep pressure on the CD. Anyway, I won't have a lot to say tonight. I'm out.
Okay, does anyone else would like to talk about the cover artwork before we dive into the track by track discussion? Chris, and then Sue.
I just wanted to call out the 2 paintings, back to back, the fronts, both sides now, she's front side, back side, inside the, I'm actually surprised they didn't use it for the back of the booklet, but inside is the other side.
And we do have to mention in Joni's discography, she had started that new kind of template with Turbulent, Indigo, and Taming the Tiger, where she had the painting with the text. So this was a deviation that she did return to with Travelogue, and then a couple of the compilations. Okay, we have Paz and then Sue. No Paz?
He's muted.
You're muted, friend.
Hey, so I'm sorry. I did love the cover, everything about the artwork on the CD. I'd like to remember my dear friend Kaki tonight because she was friends with Robbie, and she was gracious enough to send me some prints, 4 of them actually, that I have up in the house in various positions, and 2 of them being the front and back cover of the. I love the back one, especially with her thumb, behind her ear, smoking the cigarette. I just love the artwork a lot, and I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate the work that Robbie did. I did not have the problem with the CD, and actually I got 2 of them and neither one. So I do have the other artwork, which I've never framed, and they are still in the hat box, and I don't know why. So maybe I'll put them up somewhere someday.
All right, we have Sue and then Jim. Then Chris, then Jack.
Okay, so I really love this painting, the front and the back, because it reminds me of the last time I saw Richard, when she's in the cafes and or in the bars, and she's kind of looking very, kind of dreamy and or mystic, kind of depressed, but kind of, just like the feeling that comes off of the last time I saw Richard. It's like those dark cafe days. And the other thing that it reminds me of is when I was younger, I was a painter, and I was also a heavy drinker. And I went to a lot of bars, and I remember many nights I would just stare at the bottles with the mirror behind it and think to myself, what a wonderful painting that would be. So as an artist, I can tell why in the back one, in the one on the back side, why she painted those bottles, because that would have been really fun to paint. And I love this period of her painting, the paintings from Turbulent Indigo and Taming the Tiger, and there's these couple. I just love them. They're so personal to her, and they're very beautifully painted.
Yeah, I agree, Sue. And I love that she had the full picture on there instead of cropping it into a picture frame. I think the artwork is just beautiful on this CD.
Yeah, it is nice.
All right, we have Jim, then Chris, then Jack.
Okay, so let's see. This is kind of the morose period here, the traditional photogenics thing. I also want to capitalize on the idea that Khaki is remembered. She's kind of in front of my mind this week because we're giving a nod in a different venue to Stevie Wonder, and she really loves Stevie. So anyway, and the other side of it is these cards that are inside the package always make me think of Mary Grace on Tinson's, because she was the person who called these trading cards.
Oh.
She had a wicked sense of humor, and the irony of Mary Grace was that she could never hear the laughter that she inspired. So today we miss her.
Wait, was she the one that created Joni shit, or was that somebody else?
That sounds like MG.
It was MG. I think it was Joni shit. At all of Ashar's gatherings, we would get together to trade Joni shit. Because I had that, and you had that, and whatever, and I'll take that, and you take this, and Joni shit. Oh my!
Joni shit, you can't knock it. That's how I got the cassette. That's how I got the cassette from our friend up in Albany.
Yeah, MG was
Brian
at the
Thomas.
Both Sides Now concert in Concord.
All right, Chris, and then Jack.
Sue mentioned that the album art, the front cover, reminded her, gave her the vibe of the last time I saw Richard, but actually it's a case of you, because if you look at the coaster, she's drawn a map of Canada on it. It's and I was like, I absolutely love that. And I don't know if I'm crazy or what, but I swear that there's something deep in the reflection inside the center of the wine glass, and I don't know what it is. It reminded me of the shoes, like from the that are on the carpet in the Wild Things Run Fast. They're tossed there, but I can't make it out, and I don't know if anybody else has. But yeah, I saw that coaster. I was like, yeah, she's got it going on here.
Something's
all right,
happening, but you don't know what it is, do you, Mr. Jones?
The blue
Jack.
TV screen light as well.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's in the painting on the back.
Yes. So I just wanted to come clean and confess that, I said I had to take the box set back several times because of it being scratched. I had already decided that I wanted to do those two pictures in the lyrics from Both Sides Now in a frame. So one of the box sets that I was returning, I took those three pieces out so that I could keep the entire pillbox set intact. So anyway, I'm confessing my sin. I figured it'd get thrown out anyway.
You're gonna burn in hell, Jack.
You know what, Jack? I hope the person's watching that bought it as a UCD store and they're missing two of the things. If you're watching, email me and I'm gonna get your paintings back for you. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go. The other thing I wanted to mention, Chris was looking for something in the wine glass, but I think I remember on I don't know, the JMDL or whatever discussion about on the one, her blouse forms a heart on her sleeve. And there was a discussion about her wearing her heart on her sleeve.
It was there.
Yeah.
I saw it with my own two eyes.
Yeah, I just looked.
I do admit the cover is beautiful. One of her best. All right, do we have any other thoughts on the cover before we move into the music?
What wasn't there? I think there was. She was preparing to do something else for it, and then couldn't decide whether or not to do paintings.
Yeah, photos from the session. She was gonna do like band pictures.
Was it, or was it like graphics, like kind of like like a pop art, like.
I remember reading that it was gonna be like a jazz album where they had pictures of like the orchestra and stuff. And does anyone else remember that at the time Joni threatened us a trio of orchestral albums, which we got 2 of the 3. We got Both Sides Now. We got Travelogue. Does anyone remember?
We got a double.
Travelogue
on Travelogue.
So in theory, it's 3 records.
Does anyone remember what the third one was supposed to be though? That never materialized.
A Christmas record.
Yeah,
yeah.
The Christmas.
Right.
The morbid Christmas.
I forgot.
Have yourself a dreary little Christmas.
You see, that would have gotten a 10 out of 10.
Come on.
But it would have been, have yourself a dreary little Christmas. Okay. Moving into the music. The album opens with a song called You're My Thrill. And I've never heard anyone sound less thrilled on a song as Joni does on this one. Because it's supposed to be about being in love. And I'm like, you're my thrill. Like, I know when I'm thrilled, like, I'm ready to do the thing. I'm fired up and ready to go.
You need to work on sexy, baby. It's just like, she was pretty sexy on that.
So I got this one.
Okay, so I'm going to start off the discussions, and then you guys are all going to tell me why I'm wrong, and we're going to have a great time doing that. I'm here for it. Jim, your hands up. Who else is...
Are we doing the performance first?
Oh, who's performing? Is anyone doing this song?
David.
Oh, David. Okay.
David.
All right. We have a special treat for our Phonogenics viewers tonight. We're going to have a variety of performances from Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now album. And kicking it off is David Phillips performing live from New York City.
Woo! I'm just going to turn on the little recorder here, and I'll be right back.
It's great.
All right. Thank you.
Epic.
Beautiful.
Bravo.
Okay. I'm going to turn my video off for a minute so I can set my camera back up to a reasonable place. But I'm here.
All right. So You're My Thrill. Who's thrilled by this song? Sue.
Okay, so I really get into the whole love thing on this, right? I mean, it's just I have this memory of the first time I met my boyfriend, and it was in 2007. So I had already heard this album, right? So I'm on a freight elevator in a building at Cornell.
Sue, can you tell the story on here? Where's this going with the freight elevator? No, I'm just okay, continue.
No, I'm trying to explain how this song makes me feel. And he walks on the elevator. I never met him before in my life, and I'm like, I mean, it was like I got hit by a sledgehammer or something. I'm telling you the truth. It happened. So when I hear these songs, it's like, oh, that's what the old movie love is all about.
So is that your song then?
No. No. I mean, that was
her song is "Love in an Elevator" by Aerosmith.
I'm saying, as a gay man, if I meet someone on an elevator, like, it would have been a much different story. That's why I'm like, Sue, can Can we tell this story here?
Oh, you want to get to the end?
Yes.
I see where you're going here. All right.
Now, I'm
Beat
realizing
me to it.
I've never been in a relationship that was good, and they've all been terrible. So maybe that's why I don't like this album. I don't see the thrill. I haven't felt that.
Well, I mean, that was like the pinnacle, and then it was like, then it
Just like the elevator going down. That's what,
but it's like
you went from track 1 to track 3 of both sides now.
no, but this is a really beautiful song. I love that part where the harp comes in. I mean, how many albums do you listen to where there's harps? It's just beautiful. It's. I mean, I just think the orchestra sounds gorgeous.
All right, Sue. Thanks for that. Thanks for not being offended by my stupid commentary.
Of course not. No. I mean, that's a pretty cheesy way of talking about it. So I completely see why you would react that way.
It's sweet, and I'm a little jealous. Okay, Jim, and then Mark, and then Chris.
Thanks for being a good sport about that. To piggyback on what Mueller was saying, there was an Aerosmith video where the young doll who greets Tyler in the elevator says, "Hello, Mr. Tyler, going down?" Anyway, I always, apropos of nothing, I always think of when
pop music, pop music. Oh, sorry, I just lost my mind for a moment.
A moment? You'd be lucky for one moment.
It's getting hot in here. I gotta take this off.
Okay, but seriously, Both Sides Now. Whenever I hear that first song, I think of the Both Sides Now tour, and Les gave me a press pass in a moment of weakness, I guess, to take pictures for the first 3 songs up in Detroit, the Motor City. And of course, Detroit had Joni history way back at the beginning, and her flight was delayed, but the band was there, so the band came out and did sort of a jazz warm-up while they were waiting for the star to arrive, and she arrived and she did that song, and so I was standing like right in front of the stage. It was like I was the first person at the lip of the stage for 3 songs, and she did that song, and I just bellowed out, "Nailed it!" And she looked right at me, and I thought, what did I do? But the evening went on. That was my moment in Joni history.
I love it. All right, we have Mark, and then we have Chris.
Billie Holiday recorded this song for Decca in 1949. And the intro that is on the Billie Holiday record sounds almost exactly like the intro on Joni's record, except that the horn part it's all strings on the Billie Holiday. So for what it's worth, the song, to me, I don't know, it's like Paz said, it's a sexual kind of, I don't know, like Peggy Lee or something, Fever, or I don't know. It's slow, but it's sensuous. That's how it comes across to me. It's not my favorite track on the record, but it's not my least favorite either.
All right, we have Chris and then Paz.
Well, I think it's a really good track to open the record. The way with the arrangement, because it is so lush. It is the full orchestra, 71 pieces or whatever it is. And they don't use the full orchestra on all of the tracks on this record. This one, Both Sides Now, I think you've changed. You can usually tell, because if you can hear the harp, that usually means it's the larger the larger group. I think there was a core rhythm band then that would front a 35 or 36 piece arrangement. And I was hoping that Dave would be here to shed some light on which was which, and that, you know, he could probably hear it more than I can. But those are the ones that I spied it by. I did not really know the song all that well. Again, it's not one of my particular favorites on the record, but I do think it does introduce us to what we're going to experience for the next, 45 minutes, and in a really grand way.
All right, we have Paz, then David.
So yeah, these songs are songs that I heard with my parents. Both of them big music fans. Dad loved Peggy Lee, Della Reese, that I can remember. Mama, loved everybody. I mean, Dean Martin, the crooners, all that stuff. But this particular track, for me, I mean, there is no fireworks about it. It's sultry. I don't think I said anything about sexual about it, but it's inferred, I guess, in it. And so, which brings me to, during Jazz Fest, my friend Meg was here from New York, by way of Massachusetts now. She and I were invited over to Judith Owen's house, and she's got a new record coming out called Blossoms. It's amazing. It comes from the era of suggestive music, suggestive lyric, in an era where, that was frowned upon. But she's singing all these songs, Julie London, all these different people that sang these songs. And so we kind of got a preview of it. And of course, Meg played it on her show this past week. And I mean, I'm looking at a picture of Judith right now, and the way she's dressed and the era that this evokes. And for me, of course, living in New Orleans, we're bathing in jazz and in nostalgic music. So for me, the inclination to like this record and to like what we're talking about, like I said, my parents living here, it all comes from that. Maybe some of you guys didn't come up that way, but when you hear Judith's record, especially, and you can look up Judith Owen, Blossoms is the first single. It's amazing what she's doing, and God, love you, Joni. Damn, all these haters.
David.
Yeah, hi. It is a weird little song. I mean, I don't. It was hard for me to decide what song to do, because none of them really say, "Ooh, I want to sing that one," and it's like everybody said, "You're my thrill. You do something to me." Come on, it's really hard to bring it up into anything. It wants to settle down and down and down, and like every time I look at you, I can't keep still. Stillness, 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 stillness. And it's just weird lyrically, and the way the lyrics go with the melody are just really strange. And I also found it really difficult. It was a really difficult song, but okay, that's it.
All right. Well, do we have any other commentary on "You're My Thrill" before we move on to track 2? Bob.
So obviously, I usually end these discussions with covers of Joni songs. These are not Joni songs, but I thought it might be interesting to go and say who was the first to record this song, because only one of these songs on this record, Joni, premiered. "You're My Thrill" was first in 1933 from Mike Doty and his orchestra. It was from the musical called Jimmy and Sally. Vocals by Ward Silloway.
Oh, Bob, I love that you're going to do that for this one. I think that's a great spin on things. And are we
It's
gonna do the other?
what I bring to the party, because I don't like the record, but I thought I could, bring some trivia on the recordings.
That's awesome.
Are we gonna do the other now from the Prince Phonogenics group? After every song, we do the thumbs up, sideways, or down. Should we do that for this album or no?
I wouldn't dare.
We'll do our rating at the end, right?
Oh yeah, we'll do our rating at the end.
So there we go.
Well, for the record, I give "You're My Thrill" a thumbs down. But I know everyone else loves it. All right. Any other thoughts on track 1? David, I loved your version though.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. At Last. It was sung by Stevie Nicks at the event where Joni sang Stormy Weather, correct?
Yes.
Is anybody singing this in the podcast?
Oh no.
No. All right. So hands are flying up all over the place. And let's talk about At Last. We have Chris and then Mark and then Ruben.
I just wanted to say that this is nothing like the arrangement that Vince, I guess, did for Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks' at the Walden Woods benefit was all bump and grind, and she has one note that she holds for about an hour. So, yeah, it's actually a pretty good vocal performance. She should be really proud of that one. I saw Joni perform this song 3 times, 2 shows at Madison Square Garden and once at Letterman. And probably the Letterman performance, I think, was the best. I don't know, maybe it was because, the theater was cold and the room was a bit more intimate. And that theater just sounds terrific too. It was quite a thrill. One of my favorite photographs, because I also took photographs, thank you, Les, at the Madison Square Garden concert, was she did have some very specific vocal hand gestures. And at one point she, opens her arms, at the end of the song, At Last, and sings the final notes. And it's really transplendent. And I just have to, if you can imagine her doing that with all of that, beautiful, Issey Miyake, pleats, expanding all around her. It was really a beautiful moment in the show.
Yeah, Chris, those photos you had, Joni looked beautiful during this era. Like, she definitely did radiate. I love that she did this album for her artistic journey. Like, you could tell, like, it really meant a lot to her. And being a fan of Joni, the artist, I'm glad that she took every path that she wanted to explore at the time. So we have Mark, then Ruben, and then Bob.
Well, I think we all know that Etta James recorded At Last, and that's probably the most famous version of the song. And I remember, and I couldn't find the particular interview, but Joni said at the time, she described Etta James' version of it, and she said something like, there's God in some of those notes that she sings. And the accompaniment, there's a string section playing under Etta James, but it's kind of, I don't know, I want to say snaky, but it has a quality to it that's real kind of sensual, and I don't know what else to say about it, but this is one of them that's really grown on me over the past week or so, and I like it.
All right, we have Ruben, and then Bob, and then Jim.
I think it's hard to cover a song like this when it's so ingrained in everybody else's senses, like Etta James did. And I saw Etta James sing this live a couple of times later in her career, and she used to tell this story. She would say, talk about what a standard her version had become. And she said, people come up to me in the grocery store and they say, "Oh, Etta, would you sing At Last at my wedding?" And she said, "I always say the same thing. Hell no." But it was funny. Hell
oh
no,
my
I
gosh.
don't know what you should say. But I think I really like this version. I think Joni really made it her own here. I love the piano behind her in the refrain. I think it's really a beautiful version. And in contrast, a couple years later, Cyndi Lauper did a standards album, not as successfully, although I do like that one too, called At Last. And I saw her many times on her tour when she was doing that. And she turned it much more into a belter, because she's more of a belter kind of a singer. But she would hold that last note for 2 hours. Just it would go on and on and on, and everybody would start cheering. And it was really cool to see her do it too. But I like Joni's. It's kind of understated and very pretty. And Joni doesn't always sing pretty. I like this one from her.
And Ruben, as a little side note, we had a little email going on about other Phonogenics series. I would do a Cyndi Lauper one. I'm a big Cyndi fan. My favorite Cyndi album is Sisters of Avalon, for the record.
I almost included her in that list, and I didn't know. I don't know why I didn't, but I would be up for a Cyndi one too. I'm very familiar with her work.
Yeah.
Cyndi crushed it in Las Vegas. Oh my God, Magdalene Long.
Oh, that was so good.
Outstanding.
I was weeping.
Yeah.
She's remarkable. She really is.
She is so talented.
Ruben, I agree. I did like the piano on this Joni one. That's what stuck out to me when I listened to it, and I thought it was really pretty, just like you said. So yeah, this was one of the wins for me on the album. All right, Bob, and then Jim.
So I will say there are some songs that have been sung and defined that shouldn't be sung by anyone ever again. Michael Bolton recorded "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay," if you remember that one. And it's like, I'm sorry, Michael Bolton, but Otis Redding kind of nailed that son of a bitch, right? I mean, he was on it. At Last, Etta James nailed it. Comes Love, Billie Holiday nailed it. So you shouldn't even try to sing those songs. Any song Sam Cooke has sung, leave them. They've been sung as best as they can be sung. So, I got nothing to say about At Last, because it's Etta James, and then everything else is forgettable, including this track.
All right, Jim, and then David.
My goodness, I have to follow that. Well, okay, the whole album is a homage, right? But I will say this: the best homage to Etta James' version happened at Bobfest. And that was Esperanza Spalding. She did it a cappella and speechless. I turned around and looked at Les, and he just nodded. I'm out.
I feel like At Last is kind of like a case of you. Like just one of those songs that everybody sings, right? A standard, I guess, is what they call those. Boy, I suck as a host. Okay, David. Please take the floor away from me.
So what kind of struck me about both At Last and You're My Thrill, because I started doing You're My Thrill, and then I listened to Billie Holiday's version, and then I don't think I knew Etta James' version before I knew Joni's, and I thought, well, she's just doing them. Down to the ums and the oohs and the little flourishes. She's really doing the same version that Etta and Billie were doing. I think, I don't know them real well, but it really just sounds like she's doing Etta James doing the song rather than being Joni doing the song. But they're pretty. I like them.
Okay. Chris?
I'm going to disagree with that last comment. I think this is a very, very different At Last than Etta James' version. I can't speak to, I don't think I know Billie's version of You're My Thrill, but I think this is considerably different. And I also think that this is, I didn't say it earlier, that I think that this is kind of one of those songs where she is vocalizing a different kind of joy. And it's also the first time that I said, she's really acting. She's creating acting performances here. She's reaching, as theatrical as the arrangements are, she's matching them. And man, if she sustains this, the rest of this record, this is going to be tremendous. I mean, I'm trying to put myself in that real time moment again. So I was thrilled when I heard this at last. I did also want to add that she claims that she was first exposed to Etta James' version on a tampon commercial, which would probably mean that it probably was a few years later than when Etta James actually had released that version. So she was probably later coming to it.
Now, Paz, how do you feel about following up that comment?
Wow. Tampons is my favorite. Really? Jesus.
Where do you discover good music? Tampon commercials, of course.
Hello. Well, that's why Bruce Springsteen and Stevie Nicks and everybody, Sting, they're all selling their catalogs. Do you think Joni Mitchell is going to sell her fucking catalog? Anybody? Please, raise your hand if you think Joni's going to sell it before she croaks. Fuck that shit. This woman, her catalog is the Bible. Sorry. What we're talking about tonight is interpretations of music from another era that none of us were privy to because we were all too young or stupid or whatever. And I claim fame to all of those. However, I mean, I remember my mom saying to me, "Why don't you sing St. James Infirmary?" And I'm going like, "Mom, really?" I mean, there's the Beatles, there's the Animals, there's all these bands that are singing all these other songs, and I had no clue of what she was telling me. But a song like It Lasts, and a person like Etta James singing it, awesome. I mean, I'm not going to detract anything from her, but Joni's version, I loved it. And it sounded like Joni. When they are talking to these children on American Idol and The Voice and these music programs to try to make them sound like themselves, I'm sorry, Joni sounded like herself. To me, it sounded like it was her song. If you think about You're My Thrill and Billy's version, Billy was sedated most of the time during her era. And it was a down version as well. She was not like all up in that. But I love the interpretations. I'm sorry. Carry on without me.
We would never carry on without you, Paz. Do we have any other thoughts on At Last before Bob sends us off to the next song with the original?
I just want to say I love it.
You go, Sue.
So At Last, first recording 1942, Glenn Miller and his orchestra with Roy Eberle on the vocal. Glenn Miller's orchestra would also go on to record a version of Both Sides Now, after Glenn had passed, of course. And Etta James would go on to record a version of Amelia, which was supposed to be released on the Reprise Joni tribute, which never got released.
Have you heard that version?
Bitch.
Oh yeah, I've got it.
Is it good? How is it?
It's wonderful.
Cool.
Of course,
fucking Etta James.
Of course, he's got it.
All right, track 3. Joni was doing it. Track 3, Comes Love, is something that Joni was doing on her Painting with Words and Music concert in the Taming the Tiger shows. Was it credited as Nothing Can Be Done on the DVD, or am I imagining things? Because I remember that she already had a song called that, so I thought it was interesting, but I could be wrong.
No, you're right, Jeremy. There was some confusion there.
Yeah. So by the time it made it to the original name of the song was Comes Love, correct? Okay. I remember Joni's version and Painting with Words and Music being pretty slinky, and I liked it. It seemed a little watered down a little bit in the version here, but I know other people love it, and I'd love to hear why. Pause, is your hand still up? Oh, Sue.
I'm gonna sing this one.
Oh, you're singing this one.
Yeah.
So let's do a little pause, and then we'll come back to the. All right, friends. We have another special performance coming from the Both Sides Now Joni Mitchell album. Our friend Mark Scott has been on all of the discussions, correct? From the beginning?
There might have been one I missed because the Zoom was not behaving, but yeah, pretty much.
But it took until an album from 2000 for him to make his performing debut. So everyone give a round of applause to our friend Mark Scott singing a version of Comes Love.
Thank you, everybody. And here goes nothing. Comes a rainstorm, put your rubbers on your feet. Comes a snowstorm, you can get a little heat. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes a fire, firemen come and rescue you. Blow a tire, you can patch the inner tube. Comes love, nothing can be done. Don't try hiding, 'cause there isn't any use. You'll start sliding when your heart turns on the juice. Comes a headache, you can lose it in a day. Comes a toothache, see your dentist right away. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes a heat wave, you can hurry to the shore. Comes a summons, you can hide behind the door. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes the measles, you can quarantine the room. Comes a mousey, you can chase it with a broom. Comes love, nothing can be done. That's all, brother. If you've ever been in love, that's all, brother. Then you know what I'm speaking of. Comes a nightmare, you can always stay awake. Comes depression, you may get another break. Comes love, nothing can be done.
Woo!
Yes.
Great, Mark. Great.
That was awesome.
Fantastic.
I really enjoyed it.
That was sultry.
All right. Well, Ruben, your hand is the first one I see up.
All right. I loved that version. Thank you, Mark. That was absolutely fantastic. I think this is such a delicious song. I have loved this song since I was a kid. When I saw an old clip of Hermione Gingold and Peter Lawford doing a duet on this on some variety show, and I was not very old when I heard it. I thought the lyrics were so funny. And later on, when I was in high school, pre-internet, I went to the library and got somebody to send me the lyrics so I could sing it in the shower. And it was just such a great song. And I love Joni's version of this. I prefer her version from Painting with Words and Music. It was pretty slinky, and I thought she really just ate it up.
Yeah, me too.
This one's a little more hoity-toity, but I don't know. I think it's great. It's great addition to this sometimes not very fun album.
Yeah, Ruben, I thought the Painting with Words and Music was pretty sexy. And I thought this one on the album was kind of boring. Sue.
Yeah, I heard her play this at the Back to the Garden too. She did several songs like with Trouble Man too, where she it was her singing with Brian Blade and Larry playing bass. and sometimes Mark Isham came out and played trumpet on some of them, but it was just so cool. I mean, she did a great job, just commanding the song. You know what I mean? And it is funny. It's a great song. It reminds me of my brother used to have a fake book, and I stole it off of him one day, and I found "Comes Love" in that fake book. I want to get one of those books again. You know what I'm talking about when I say a fake book? It has all the just three. It just has the first stanza and the bridge of all standards.
Send you a digital copy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Send you a digital copy.
All right. Yeah. So and it was just CG. You go, and you know how like they had those really great guitar players like in the Robert Johnson era who just like strum like down. Comes a rainstorm, and I wanted to play it like that, So it's a great song, and she was fabulous at that concert. I'm actually getting all my and that was my gig too from the website to get in front of the stage for 3 songs, and I had this fabulous camera, and I took all these pictures, and I'm getting them digitized. So once they come back, I can share them with everybody. So they really came out beautiful.
All right, Mark.
Muted.
Now I remember the Painting with Words and Music performance, and that it was before Both Sides Now came out. And I was absolutely thrilled because this was a song that Billie Holiday recorded, and I'm a huge Billie Holiday fanatic. I mean, I own all kinds of vinyl and all kinds of CDs that I had to buy because I needed them on CD anyway. And I was thrilled that she was singing this song that I knew from Billie Holiday, and then Both Sides Now came out, and there's several songs on there that maybe aren't necessarily songs that Billie was known for, but that she did record. And so I thought, oh, my idol really appreciates and loves another one of my idols. So it was really pretty cool. So I wanted to sing that song. Thanks to Robin and Dave. I'm sorry about the circumstances, but thank you for being gracious and saying, go ahead and do it. That's it.
All right, pause.
So, Mark, I want to know, because I saw it come up on my feed on the whatever streaming thing. I think it might have been Prime or whatever. So, Lady Sings the Blues. So, did you like that representation of Billie or not?
When it came out, I did. As I came to learn more about her, I became more not so hot on that particular version. But in retrospect, I saw the one that Andrew Day did, the United States versus Billie Holiday, and it was probably closer to the truth. And then Andrew Day did Billie Holiday at, what is it, Bar and Grill? I can't remember. But
it was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
I did like the performances. I mean, the movie so much was not.
Yeah, but it was, it was 1972. It was obviously a vehicle for Diana.
They were trying.
And so it was what it was. And I thought she did a good job of sort of giving an impression of Billie's singing style. But like I said, in retrospect, she just wasn't the type. She wasn't right. Billie was really kind of a rough and tumble person in her youth. Yeah. And apparently in a fight she could give as good as she got, and her language was not always ladylike.
Reminds me of like Nina Simone, the same thing, that same sort of thing where nobody can do what she did. And I did like Diana's. I'm from Detroit, so I was a fan, so I wanted to like it. So earlier on, I did really appreciate what Diana did, but it was also an era where, nobody knew how Billie Holiday was. Most of the mainstream people didn't know who she was.
I
And
didn't know
even
who she was when that movie came out.
right, so, Orleans. I mean, people are weaned on this music history. I mean, what we're fed here on a day-to-day basis by the incredible talent roster that we have in this community is incredible. It's an incredible education to be able to appreciate music. I mean, Mahalia is huge here historically. Stevie, even Little Richard, is from this area. So all those things for me historically, I appreciate very much. But I also appreciate when people play versions themselves to try to get it to other people. And I hold in high regard Diana for her representations of Billy, as well as Andrew Day, which I really love that movie as well. But Joni, who we're talking about, amazing.
Jim.
Okay, Michael, pause. Since we're pausing on New Orleans for a moment, could you speak about John Batiste and his importance? Why is New Orleans important to John Batiste, the winner of, what was it, album of the year? I really love that record, by the way.
Let's not deviate too far off the Joni Mitchell, though, just for our listeners.
He was up for 11, but he won 9. So 9 out of 11. Oh, Jesus, really? For me, he sort of pissed me off for a minute because he was nominated in categories he shouldn't have been in. Categories that affect artists that I work with that are on a lesser scale than the big ones. Not to detract from the fact that the man had a beautiful album, and Freedom is a beautiful track, and all glory to him. I was hip to him very early on here. I had the opportunity to work for him, but it didn't pan out for whatever reason. Too many different things going on. But I was extremely, extremely proud of him as an artist and as a friend to what he did in Vegas. And I think Sue can testify to that too, because it was just so amazing what he did in representing our queen and representing home at the same time, which is it's always a thing. Everybody is talking about New Orleans and New Orleans being a thing, but John Batiste, God bless him, and kudos.
All right, friends.
I'll save the rest of my comments for after the taping.
Yeah, let's keep it on the Both Sides Now album for our viewers. All right, Chris.
Just a comment on the song itself, and Bob will probably follow with what year this was first done. But this is a song that talks about stuff that ain't perfect. It's you're hiding from a summons, you're chasing rodents out of your living space. There's all you're sick. There's all sorts of terrible things happening. And I guess, of course, love is the answer to, solves every problem, which is wonderful. But man, this song was, I can't imagine it being on the hit parade, so it took a really special family to sort of expose themselves to it. So if Joni had an early if Joni did have an early exposure to this song, that's pretty rich.
Cool. And thank you for being along with me as I keep it moving, because we're only 3 songs in of 12, and there's no way in hell that we're doing a 2-parter for Both Sides Now. No way in hell. Okay. Any other thoughts on Comes Love? That's what she said. Any other thoughts on Comes Love?
Well, I just want to say that Chris was making the point of it's all of these negative things. Well, that's kind of putting love as something that is even more earth-shaking or I don't want to say negative, but it's it's putting it on a level where it's, oh God, you can't do anything about this. You know, you're stuck with it, and it's gonna drive you crazy and maybe hurt you really badly, but nothing can be done. You know, it's
no
making you
fucking
feel good
choice.
now, so you got to go through with it.
Did anyone else think if you get COVID, quarantine in the room? All right, Jack.
I did when I was singing.
Yeah, I just want to say I really like this song. I love that kind of the swing to it. To me, it does for this album what Carrie did for Blue. You know, where to me Blue is very slow and kind of melancholy and quiet, and Carrie kind of picked things up. You know, and to me, this kind of does the same thing for this album. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Awesome. Any other thoughts before we go over to Bob to talk about the OG original?
So the OG is 1939 Harry James Orchestra, which my dad had some of those records that I grew up listening to. Connie Haynes did the lead vocal.
All right. So this album is about the arc of a relationship, and we are on track 4, and that is You've Changed. So there's Trouble in Paradise. Is anybody singing this one? All right.
That's fine.
All right, let me pause. We'll do a little sound check. Take away, pause.
Recording in progress.
All right, and Michael Paz is going to introduce the next performer.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not often that you find a talent like the one that we know, one that's so learned about all things Joni, and you just bump into him, happenstance, on your way to the Beacon Theater, and he's going to like put more coins in his parking meter or something. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Cuccaro.
Woo!
Take it off. Take it all off.
That was amazing. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I discovered him on a street in New York, in between crosswalks.
Dude, it's such a theatrical song. There was no way I was like not gonna freaking act. Sorry. Overact. It's so theatrical.
This is Phonogenics podcast / bathhouse. All right.
And he can tie a tie.
Yeah, barely.
All right, Chris, I'm going to mute you so we don't have the echo when I get into this. All right, Mark.
This is another Billie Holiday song. She recorded this on an album called Lady in Satin, which was sort of controversial because she was a jazz singer, and she recorded this with the Ray Ellis Orchestra. And it was all of these string arrangements with this kind of strange choral background. And at this point, this was 1958, and it was a year before she died. And her voice was really, really rough. So it was a real contrast between the orchestra and her voice. I've never been real crazy about Lady in Satin. Annie Ross says it's her favorite Billie Holiday album because there's a whole life in that voice, but it's not my favorite. Anyway, when I saw Joni perform this, she had made some kind of a little intro she was doing little intros to various songs. And then that big dramatic intro from the orchestra comes in, and then it sort of stops and she kind of goes, "You've changed," real abrupt, and somebody in the audience started to laugh, and there was a little ripple of laughter. throughout the audience, and Joni kind of giggled a little bit and then got her stuff together again and went on with the song. But that was great, Chris. That was great. And I've really started to appreciate this version more just in the last week or so when I've been listening to the record.
So for historical context, is this a Billie Holiday deep cut? This isn't a well-known one?
I don't know. I'm familiar with it because it was in the movie Lady Sings the Blues, and
Okay.
I have that soundtrack. But I don't know that she's particularly well known for the song.
Okay. All right, Chris.
Well, one of the reasons I chose this to sing was it's a rather late Billie Holiday, so her range had compacted, so my range is very narrow, so it seems not Billie's not narrow enough for me, but it's one that I think a lot of people don't know from her work. I mean, I guess that was a fairly popular album. I mean, 1958 was a big year for all sorts of jazz. So I have to believe that it sold enough of them, and especially after the movie, it got more more play. But I think that Joni might have chosen it too because it didn't require a huge range, and it also fit thematically into the arc idea of where she wanted to take it. What I particularly like about the song is, there's a lot of, in Joni's canon, there's a lot of self-flagellation. This is anything but. This is a complete indictment of, of a rejecting lover. And I, having had recent enough experience, I will definitely grab onto that and try to pull a little bit of that out. The song speaks to me. It does.
All right, pause.
So says the Tom Waits of the JMDL. With such a impressive range. That was gorgeous, baby. Come on. Don't sell yourself short. Amazing.
I like your version better than Joni's.
Such an encyclopedia of all things Joni, like Mueller. I don't know, you may be Mueller Jr. because, Bob is kind of like the pinnacle of all things Joni, but no, terrific stuff.
I wouldn't pretend that.
Well, you got a lot of trivia.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, Mike. It really is.
And I absorb some of it, but I have no retention, which you guys do. So, however, that was great. I do want to say that I mean, as far as Joni is concerned, there is no contest. The woman's voice articulates this music in a way that makes me remember what I grew up on, the basis of what I learned from my parents, and what I know now as an old man living in New Orleans. The music education here from the people that I've worked with and the people that I appreciate just by watching them, it's amazing. And Joni kind of encapsulates all that and still makes it her own in an amazing way. And this record is amazing, Jeremy. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you.
On the contrary, I was just thinking, like, if these songs are standards, I loved Chris's version, but the song itself, I just feel is just boring. Okay, shots fired. Phonogenics.
We need to get you some more experience, baby.
Believe me, I've had plenty of experience.
Give me your no.
Plenty.
Give me your phone number.
Also though, it might be that I didn't grow up with this music because my parents were more into like the Fleetwood Mac, and they listened to Fleetwood Mac and Blondie, and those are the things that I hold near and dear, and that I kind of grew up with. So I think maybe if I would have had more of an attachment to this in my childhood, I would appreciate the album more.
How old of a person are you?
I'm 47.
Oh my God, a child.
That's the first time I've been called a child in a long time, and I will take it.
You are a young man.
We have Ruben, then Jack.
I was just going to say, out of all the tracks on this album, this is one of my favorites. I don't know if I was familiar with this one or not. I had a copy of Lady in Satin, but it didn't absorb early on. So I must have heard it, but I didn't remember it. And I love what she did with this song. I think it's a great one. I think a couple of the tracks on this album kind of come and go without much punch, but this one, I think she really got under the skin. So this is a good one for me.
This is definitely one that I'm going to revisit after hearing Chris's version. So when I'm in the car on my way to work tomorrow, this is right where I'm going. Jack.
I'd kind of like to me, Joni's version is sad and melancholy, where Chris is, I felt more pain and anger in, and I'd be curious if anyone knows what the original version was. Was it more of a melancholy type song or more of a pissed off song? And I don't know if anyone else picked up a hint of anger in Chris's presentation.
My interpretation of the original Billy track was that it was more about resignation. She was just, she was ready to turn and just leave with, some semblance of pride and just, recede from that situation. So, I think, I don't know if Joni would call this the doormat song or not, but I think that there was a little bit more of that in Billy's version of it, where she was, perhaps wronged, but willing to accept it and just, move on.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other thoughts on You've Changed? Ruben, is your hand up from before, or did you have an additional comment? Okay. Bob, is there anything to add about original versions?
So similar to Comes Love, You've Changed, 1941. Again, Harry James Orchestra debuted this recording with Dick Haymes as the singer. Some of you may know Dick Haymes. I knew him from the film of our state fair. Is a great state fair. He had his nose poked up like this. Don't miss it. Don't even be late. The Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. So that was You've Changed. And we've come to the end of Joni's arc, right? She did an arc of love. 4 songs into the record, the arc is peaked, and we have 7 songs she has yet to drag us through of sorrow. So here we go.
I was like, I don't have much hope for love if in a 12-song cycle, this is where we're at in track 4.
So let me just ask you something. So is an arc meaning that there's a bottom area that you go up to and then come back down, or is it an arc that goes up and down, like in and out, or so?
It's like a rainbow, right? So think about. I mean, if you've changed, means you've changed the sheets because the sex has been so hot, or you've changed your underwear because you can't because it's so stained.
Hello,
it's still pretty hot.
Do you know what I feel the arc of this album is?
Changed means the relationship is over. Then okay, it's over.
And there's still 12 songs more to go. I feel like the arc of this album is like, remember that game on The Price is Right where the guy climbs up the hill like, then like, that's the arc of the album. Jim, save us from ourselves.
No, that's not my role. But in Detroit, when she did this, she described for people who didn't know the album yet, what she was going to do. And so there were a lot of people in the audience who hadn't heard this album, and I think they were showing up to hear, Both Sides Now and maybe Big Yellow Taxi. And so this was a bit of a shock for those people. And so what is this, the fourth song in, she goes, "You've changed." And I heard about a dozen women gasp in the audience. That's all I have.
All right. So the next stop on Joni's journey through love is Answer Me, My Love. And I don't remember the song at all, even though I just listened to the album. Is anyone performing this one? Okay. Does anybody want to start the discussion on this one? All right, Sue.
You know, I do love most of this album. This song I'm not too crazy about because it is very maudlin. You know, I mean, I'm like, wow, just, you know, I want to stick my head under my pillow. It's very sad. And you know, it's a good song, but it's, you know, and I understand, you know, it's another one of those standards, you know. It's actually more of like this you know, remember those movies in the 50s that were all like bright colors, but they were all these like soap opera type of movies with Rock Hudson, and they were all really corny, and you know, that's what this song reminds me of, you know. It's a bit of a you know, like the this is terrible. It's like the, you know, this is the only thing I can think of right now. It's like the Canadian Mountie and the woman. You remember in the old 30s they had they, like these two, you know, and they would sing really high and it would be really corny. I mean, this song has a bit of corniness to me.
When I'm calling you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the voice that I hear in my head when I hear it. So, you know, I mean, okay, it's
not one of my favorites either.
No, I mean, you know.
However, still, it's the orchestration, everything is pretty, and her voice sounds pretty and stuff. It's like, for me, it's like no apologies. Yeah, not one of my favorite songs, but you know what? She does it well, but just not my jam. Yeah,
that's how I feel too.
I agree.
I'm going to just deviate for about 30 seconds. But the reason I brought up the staircase is because there was this assistant DA named Freda Black, and they just always cut to her face, making expressions like. So I feel that's me this whole podcast. I'm like, so look up Freda Black. That's me on the podcast. Okay, Mark.
Well, I just wanted to mention that I think, to me anyway, the best known version of this song was by Nat King Cole.
Oh.
And he did a beautiful version of it. I mean, almost anything Nat King Cole did was beautiful.
But he had a velvet voice.
Yeah, wonderful voice. This one, it's okay. I'm not real crazy about it. I don't know that it's the greatest song in the world, but it fits in there. So I guess that's all I have to say.
All right, Chris.
I just want to call out the arrangement for a moment. I think the horns introduction is breathtaking, and it really like gives a quiet aloneness. There's a real sense. It's so intimate that you've left wherever you were and you're now within somebody's head. In my mind, I think that it really moves. It's very cinematic. I find this particular transition between the two tracks. Again, this record, you know, is built in a certain way, and I think that whether or not this was Joni or Larry or Vince, I think that they did attempt to sort of paint different perspectives of the arc of this of whatever relationship was forming and disbanding and forming, and you know, however that was working. But I think that this was a very successful transition here.
Certainly Larry got it up for this record on a major arc, in my opinion. So there is arcs of relationships that go up and down.
All right. Any other thoughts on Answer Me, My Love before Bob takes us away?
So this one is really interesting. My research shows this was a German song translated to English as Answer Me, Lord Above in 1953, first recorded by Frankie Lane, recorded by some German artists prior to that. As Answer Me, My Love, the first recording was 1955 by Donald Shirley. And yeah, it's a stink bomb of a song. On this record, it's a total stink bomb.
I didn't even remember it. So we're moving to the last song of the first part of the album. And I'm just going to say the reason why I didn't love Joni's reinterpretation of A Case of You. And it's so petty and trivial. But every time I hear it, do you ever have a song that one thing just drives you crazy about it and you just can't get over it? Sure. I wish when she did it, she didn't put the O's in there. Like, you're in my blood, like holy man. Oh, you taste so bitter, and oh, so like we don't need that in this version, Joni. To me, I can't get past that. It would have been so much nicer without the O's in there. That's my pettiness.
Oh, you're so petty.
Just call me Tom
Not
Petty.
Tom Petty from Gaines.
Oh, that Jeremy.
I'm so petty and all the time. Okay. Like, it would have just been so much smoother without, like, trying to get all those syllables in there. Okay, I'm done. I'm not going to say anything else for the rest of the song.
I heartily disagree with you. I think, look, the original version is stunning. Mm-hmm. Hello, with a frickin' dulcimer.
Yeah.
Hello. In the most simplistic way anyone can articulate something so close to you, which obviously a bunch of men said, oops, it's medication time. Mm-hmm. Somebody so close to you, you know, my God, somebody like Chris Christopherson or somebody can say to her, oh, Joni, you know, hold back. I mean, really? I mean, how trite, how awful for somebody to say something like that to her about her writing.
Sure.
And yet, you know, here we are a gazillion years later, and she does another version. And of course, kudos to Vince and Larry and anybody else who was on the record, especially the frickin' orchestra string section. Oh my God. As far as I'm concerned, she had 2 hits back to back. One on the front end of the back and one on the back end of the back. Oh my God. It just, I love both versions equally. I think she is a genius. I think she was all over this record. She gave a lot of credit to a lot of other people, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's Joan. Sorry.
I did enjoy this version of it because it kind of brought some melody back to the album after a run of songs where there didn't seem to be that much. Okay, we have David, we have Chris, we have Sue, we have Mark, and then Jim. Chris, you're first.
Oh
no, David, you're first.
Yeah. And this is a little bit kind of, I think, echoing you, Jeremy, because I have a hard time getting past the intro, where it sounds like the orchestra is trying to sound like a dulcimer. And once they give up on that, I've already given up, unfortunately. But it's only in the past week that I thought, no, keep listening. And they actually stopped doing that after the intro. And then, you know, maybe it's a nice song, but it never hit me like A Case of You. And in fact, it's my least favorite track on the album. And it's because of that intro.
Okay, Chris, you're next.
I think the portion of the intro before the dulcimer type stuff comes in is breathtaking. That the strings, somber strings that sort of introduce you into this track are one of the prettiest cues. There's a couple of other really, really good ones in Travelogue, but this is one of my favorite moments on this record. Is the strings introduction before the dulcimer lines come in. With regard to the O's, though, this is Joni Mitchell. You're going to start counting syllables now. We have. I mean, she would disappoint otherwise, wouldn't she?
See, I feel like it's like a puzzle. The syllables fit in that first puzzle. This time around, it's like trying to hammer the piece in that doesn't fit. But I see your point. Okay, Sue, Mark, Ruben, Jim.
I really have to say that that comment by Chris Christopherson was patronizing and misogynistic.
Absolutely.
She can say whatever the fuck she wants, just like any guy can. So
fuck him.
And I can say that because I'm a.
It was her motherfucking song. Fuck
Exactly.
you, bitch.
Sue, I like it. I like it when Sue gets sassy. Like fuck Chris Christopherson.
No, and I understand why she says it because it is a interesting, I'm sure she was pretty much, found it really weird that he said it,
Yeah.
I mean, because she's a genius, for Christ's sake. She wrote that out. That album was, just a miracle, in many ways. So, yeah. Anyway, I just had to get that out. But
confrontational you are.
I know. I was going to bring up the dulcimer sound too. I thought it was kind of cool, but yeah, I can understand how, it's almost like they're trying to recreate that, and it's it can be. I like the reinterpretation of the song.
It was an orchestration.
Yeah. So
it wasn't a dulcimer.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm trying to say.
It was 100 years later.
Right. Yeah. But you know what I really love about this song and both sides now being on this album? Because these are standards. And these two songs are not her only standards.
Yeah.
River's standard.
Yes.
And
Circle Game.
Yeah, Circle Game's standard.
Dancing Clown.
They're going to be playing these songs forever. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I think that they belong here. And I was very happy when she decided to do Travelogue too, because I like, there's several of the songs on that album I really think are done really well too. So sorry, I said fuck. I'm sorry about that. Okay.
That is one thing you never have to apologize for on this podcast. In fact, I encourage it because Lord knows there's no fucking in any other aspect of my life. Okay, let's move on. Mark. Mark, it's your turn. Then Ruben, and then Jim.
I actually like that little echo of the dulcimer part in the intro. I don't know. That seems like kind of a signature for the song. Do, 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 do. Anyway. And Chris Christopherson's comment, I believe, was, "Oh, Joni, save something for yourself." And she said afterwards, or her comment about it has been that she thought the men were afraid to be as open and transparent as she was being on Blue. When I saw the Both Sides Now concert, when it came to this song, I thought, oh, this is probably the only chance I will ever get to hear Joni Mitchell sing a Quesadilla. So, and I was never real crazy about the arrangement on the record either, but that was a real thrill and something I won't forget. And and again, this is one that's grown on me from listening to it. I don't think I've listened to the record as much as I have in the last week prior to this. I mean, I don't know. I put it away at some point and then didn't pull it out again. And I'm grateful that we're doing this because I'm familiarizing myself with it, and I think it's beautiful. Anyway.
Was this ever released on vinyl?
I don't know.
This would make a beautiful record store day blue vinyl release. That's my wish list.
I think it was. I think it was released on vinyl. I think it was very limited. I think.
I don't know about it.
Yeah, it was in a hat box. It bounced around and scratched all the records.
Bob.
Ruben. And then Jim.
We need dissenting voices. So
moving on now. No, I will say the original version of A Case of You never did much for me. I appreciate its place in the canon, but I don't know, the dulcimer. I'm not a blue guy. That's at the bottom of my list. It always has been. But I thought, here's an opportunity to take this song and really recreate it with this powerful orchestral version. And I feel kind of like you, Jeremy. The verses it's like there's too many syllables. It's like they're just sort of thrown out there. But the chorus with the "I could drink a case of you," like that she nails. But the rest of it doesn't match up or something. I feel like I'm getting too picky about it, but I guess that's what we're supposed to be doing here. But I don't know. I don't know. I was looking forward to a new and improved Case of You on this, and it just didn't happen for me.
one of the comments I remember her making was that this record gave her the opportunity not to worry about getting all the words out and being more expressive. She's not playing an instrument or anything like that. And this was a song that she recorded before and on her most famous record, and played dulcimer, and it's really hard to beat that. Also, she doesn't have the range here that she had when she recorded the first one, so it couldn't be like that original song, the original recording, and she had to revise it. Anyway, bye-bye.
All right, we have Jim and then pause.
Okay, a lot of people when we were growing up, for the benefit of you youngsters, Jeremy, but the argument was Beatles or Stones, and where I was growing up, it was words or music, and I was a words guy. So from a words point of view, the first time she uses the word "oh" is right after I Do a Map of Canada, and then she quotes in her own way the Canadian national anthem. Right. Oh Canada, and then she uses "oh" over and over and over again to remind you, this is where I started, and this is the progress that I made, and at the end I'm over here. So I think it's a literary device.
Huh.
Like it or not, I'm out.
I never thought of that. Pause.
So in salute to what Jim says, I'm a Beatles man from the waist up, but from the waist down, I'm a Stones man. The bottom line is, when we're talking about this song in particular, I'm sorry, I've heard all of your comments on it, and I don't know, I'm so confused, because for me this is one of the most iconic ones. That when Peter Erskine said to me, "Man, the string section just came unglued. They just collapsed at this arrangement, and the lyrics. I don't know, man. I'm gonna share something with you that disturbs me, because I was with Sue in Vegas. Graham Nash phoned in his video thing, and he sang this song, and I love the man. God, what a gorgeous voice! What a gorgeous career he's had. I really was a little taken aback by his version because he changed the lyrics in a way that I didn't think that was appropriate. Sue, do you agree? Did you
Yeah,
have that same reaction?
yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't think that was. I mean, we've heard so many men do Joni songs, and they don't have to change the lyrics.
Right. I've changed them myself with latitude. That I've said, oh, song for Sharon. I've changed it in a way that, I'm not longing to be in a white dress that I see on the way to Mandolin Brothers on Staten Island. That's not why I'm singing this song. I'm singing this song because it gives me images of stuff that I like. So, but I've heard somebody like Glenn Hansard sing Coyote, and with conviction of staring at someone's legs. It's
Was it just the heteronormative gender change that he made?
Yeah, what did Graham Nash change exactly?
So it was something having to do with the exchange of the taste. And I can't articulate it right now because I didn't write it down, but it's online. I mean, you can see it, you can hear what he said. And for me, it was not appropriate. It was not appropriate. Her interpretation was, in my opinion, disregarded because she was a woman, because Rolling Stone decided that this woman has been with every man known to man. I mean, all those kind of images and things come to mind, and it's hard for me to conceive in this day and age how anybody could be treated that way by somebody like Jan Wenner in Rolling Stone, an iconic person like Joni. How could she be treated that way? Unconceivable.
She didn't stay her place.
And yet for Chris Christopherson to say something like that, to say something for yourself, no, bitch. I have to get this shit out there because all you freaking people just don't get it. And of course, yeah, there's so many people that are gay or black, or you're afflicted with some sort of thing that's not appreciated by the mass thing, and it drives me crazy day in and day out.
Well, today's artists know that,
right?
And I thought that Seal's version of "A Strange Boy" was very
Awesome.
sexy, and he did not change the genders on it.
No,
thank you, Seal.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, he was really good.
Amazing.
All right, Ruben, your hand is up, Ruben.
I was just going to say, I totally agree with you, Sue, about the Chris Christopherson thing. And she mentioned that again in that interview she was doing with Clive Davis after the Grammys online a couple years ago when she was interviewed at home. And one of the things she said after that I thought was fascinating was that he had said that to her. And she said, and the attitude after that was, oh, great. Is this what we're doing now? Like all of a sudden everybody was going to have to work harder and dig deeper because she made this record. And I thought, good for you. Own it. And, and I felt like that's.
Can I just say that Graham Nash, David Crosby, all these people, part of the whole scene, all, mostly men, and she's trying to, she's doing her thing, right? I don't think they were not even close to being as good as she was.
No.
As far as I'm concerned.
No.
You know, I mean, they were good within their niche, you know, but you know, probably people are going to hate this, but I don't really think that they could touch her with a 10-foot pole, and I think they on some level they knew that.
Oh, I think they all knew that.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them would dispute that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they all laud her now, especially David and Graham. They all, you know, she was the pinnacle of songwriting, composition. I know a lot of you are Dylan fans. I think Dylan's a great poet, but when it comes to composition of songs and stuff, I'm sorry, Joni dwarfs that man. I'm sorry.
Completely.
As a woman,
and you know
as an Indian woman from Saskatchewan.
the other line that I didn't like too was some crack. I can't remember who said this to Graham Nash, but they said, "Son, what is it like sleeping with Beethoven?"
Oh my God!
Now, like, what the fuck, man? I mean, you know, say, "Wow, she's an incredible artist."
Right.
What's it like to fuck Beethoven? What the
hell
is that all about?
Ruben, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's from before.
That's from before?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Jim. And then we have Chris.
I was just going to say, that stuff is out of bounds. And on the other hand, you know, we've got David Crosby saying, "She rocked me right up against the back wall." I couldn't believe there was anybody that good. You know, I mean, there were people around her who were appropriately in awe. It wasn't just us. And those are the people who matter.
All right, Chris, any final thoughts on A Case of You before we finish part one of the album?
Yes. I just wanted to talk a second. You know, it's funny that we're having this conversation about A Case of You in such depth when, you know, at Blue, we certainly talked about it, but this is, you know, a whole other side of it. I'm going to play devil's advocate, though, for one thing about the Chris Christopherson thing. Okay. I do agree to some extent that some of the other songwriters might have said, "Wow, I don't know if I could pull that shit off." You know what I mean? If I could open myself. And you know what? That's their own issues because they don't know how to find that within themselves, perhaps, and to share that with them. And that's too much vulnerability. But this is what I will say. She had some very good friends who knew about her struggles in ways that we all didn't at that time. They knew every time February would come up that she would be mourning her daughter. There were things that perhaps, I mean, I'm not saying that chivalry is noble necessary or that it was expected or wanted or anything, but what I'm saying is I think that it's very possible that some of her friends might have just said, "Wow, are you sure you want to go there?" And that's, you know, that's okay. I mean, you know, I think, I mean, so I don't, you know, I never saw her equate Christopherson's comment with the Rolling Stone thing. I don't think that she ever really interpreted it in a way that she found it that threatening. So I'm just saying, let's give these people who might really have cared about her an opportunity to say, you know, maybe they were trying to protect her at that moment.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
I always thought it was.
I'm only reacting from how I hear it. You know?
It is valid, but Jan didn't care because he published that shit.
I get it. That's not, you know, they're not. Christopherson is not Jan, and I don't think she ever equated them.
All right, friends, I'm going to bring us back in. I'm going to bring us back to both sides now of the album. I'm going to reel us back in.
Well,
Bob, who wrote this song? Who did the original?
Well, this was the Joni original, of course, off of Blue, which that version stands out. This one's forgettable.
All right, let's take a little bit of a break before we get to side 2 of the album. Is everyone cool with that? All right,
I'm ready.
All right, friends, we are inching our way through both sides now. This is been a very different podcast for us, but I'm really enjoying it. I feel like we're kind of letting our hair down a little bit, getting a little wild. This album was self-described in the liner notes as an arc, and this is the arc thus far. She's loved, she's loved, she's loved. She's lost, she's lost, she's lost. And now we're about to do side 2, which is she's lost, she's lost, she's lost, she's lost, she's lost, she's lost, and she's lost.
Wow.
She's still lost.
Okay.
You can't believe what you read.
That is definitely too simplistic. Okay, what is the first song on side 2, friends?
Don't Go to Strangers.
Don't Go to Strangers. Is anybody singing this one?
I do love this one.
I thought, Sue, weren't you doing this, Sue?
No, I'm doing I Wish I Were in Love Again.
Great song.
I love
All right, Don't Go to Strangers. Don't give me that advice when I'm alone with my iPhone on Grindr at 3 a.m. Okay, who would like to start the discussion on this song? Okay, David, your hand is up.
Yeah, well, you already started it, Jeremy, with Grindr at 3 a.m., and I just really like a song that is kind of about Grindr at 3 a.m., you know? About somebody... I actually like the...
or 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of any other song that is about this particular thing, you know? I know, you know, the time in the relationship when you say, okay, we gotta work this out somehow, and go out and get your fingers burnt, which for the longest time I thought was get your fingers wet, and then I read the lyrics again, I thought, oh, okay, get your fingers burnt, but you know, come back to me, and I just think that's a really, like I said, I just can't remember a song that's about negotiating non-monogamy, and I welcomed it. So.
All right, Chris, your hand is up.
Did she ever speak to how she found this song? Because I can't imagine this was on Myrtle's playlist. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Myrtle. But I cannot believe that this is something that they would, you know, be listening to in the Anderson home.
No, because it was recorded very late. It was like 1954, first recording.
Well, you know, Joni was a teenager, and maybe Myrtle listened to her to say, "Hey, I better watch this one here because listen to what's on the radio here." It's you know, it is something, you know, adult relationships, you know, whether or not they were, you know, openly enjoyed, they were not, you know, talked about or sung about in such candor for the most part.
Hey, Mark. Oh, you're muted, Mark.
Especially in the 1950s. I mean, you wouldn't have heard something like that. And I just wonder, I know in some relationships, at least between men, there is often what you call an open relationship, and sometimes it works. Most of the time, I don't think it really does. But I'm just wondering if in the heterosexual world, if it's as common, or if it's just not acknowledged, or nobody's going to say, don't go to strangers. You know, I know you get the call to follow your heart, you'll follow your heart. I know. I have been around, I'm an old hand. I'll understand if you have to go. I mean, is that a common thing that anybody does? I mean, back in Bloomsbury with Virginia Woolf and all of those people, it was pretty common to have open relationships, and some of the partners went both ways. But does this happen nowadays? I just don't know. Anybody want to speak to that?
Well, I can. I mean, I was asked if it would be okay if our relationship could be open. And that was, pretty shocking to me after,
Deal breaker.
20 years of marriage. So, and then when he left, he wanted to invite me over to their house for a barbecue.
Oh.
Well, her ex-husband's come over. Why can't you come over too? So, I mean, there's people who feel like they need multiple relationships, I mean, it's just, I think that to stay in a relationship like that, you have to be pretty codependent.
I don't think it's all that. I think it's actually people need intimacy on a love level, like you're needed as a person, but the other things that draw you sexually is what comes into play. That's not necessarily accepted by the masses. And
I mean, I think that there's
that's where it
people
falls
who would
apart.
accept it, but I mean, everybody has the choice of whether they want to be in that type of relationship.
Exactly.
All right, Bob, your hand was up for a moment. Did you have something? Then we have Chris next.
Just a comment about getting some strange, which is probably not very appropriate.
What does that mean, Bob?
Well, getting some strange, right?
Yeah,
Michael,
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you liar. You're such a liar.
Like my friend Nerese would say from Busch Gardens, lying bitch. Chris, your hand was up.
It is.
I think the arrangement is beautiful.
What I'm noticing is we're kind of talking about this in a way that's kind of like, I'm not saying it's judgmental, but it's certainly from a perspective that there's a really interesting openness about the perspective from which this song is written and sung that sort of acknowledges the possibility that, I know you'll follow your heart. Yeah, you're going to go and get whatever you want, wherever you find it, but don't go there. Come here. Like there's something different here. There's a real opportunity being offered here that I think that we're, kind of not necessarily watching for, because we're talking about what is surprising about what is salacious or what is different about it. And yes, this was a risky song in its time, but in the arc of where the album is, I think it's really a beautiful place. What's happening here? That there's really a great that's what I want to say. Somebody who's being very, very magnanimous and open with with their lover, who wants to provide for them what they think they need. I don't know. I think it's lovely. I think it's a lovely sentiment, and it's more than sentiment. It's deeper.
And it's a beautiful arrangement, I think, for this song. I really love it.
One of my faves on the album.
All right, David.
Oh dear. Yeah, I just really also kind of echoing what other people just said. I love the way that the stanzas end with "lover, come back to me."
Mm-hmm.
That it is, that we're lovers. You are my lover. I am your lover, and just keep coming back. I like it. I actually would have sung this if I thought that Sue hadn't taken it. But I thought Sue had taken it.
I did want to sing it.
Oh yeah. And then by the time you gave up on it, I was invested in "You're My Thrill." But
it went back and forth a couple times.
Yeah, I like this song.
Score for us all.
All right. Do we have any other thoughts on this one before Bob gives us the history? All right, Bob.
This is one of the newer ones, 1954. Only 3 years before I was born. The Orioles with Sid Bass and his orchestra did this one first, their release.
All right. The next stop on our journey is Sometimes I'm Happy. Who wants to start this one off? Because I probably shouldn't be so honest, but this is kind of where the album started to blend together and all the songs are like one big thing to me.
I'm kind of with you on that. I like the song and I like her delivery of it, but this is where the whole thing starts to sag a little bit for me.
All right, we have David, then Chris.
No, sorry.
Oh, you're still up. Okay, Chris.
Oh wow! I think I kind of disagree. This is where actually the album, the clouds part, and I find that this is real joy. There's something wonderful about the smaller band and the arrangement here. The tuba is given all the parts that Jocko would have done because it's all like fretless bass. It's all like freeform and fantastic. I don't know. I feel happy every time I hear this song, and what more could you want from it? Thank you, Joni.
Any other thoughts on Sometimes I'm Happy? I don't remember the song. I just listened to this album. I do not remember the song at all. I suck as a host. I tried. But I'm opening the floor to anybody else besides Chris that likes this song.
Last call for alcohol.
Last call for alcohol. If you want me, I'll be in the bar.
The whole idea of my disposition depends on you is so offensive to me. But here we have the arc of the relationship, So here's that arc of the relationship, that moment of the relationship before you realize that you can't fucking depend on the other person's happiness,
Maybe that's why I didn't like this, because my disposition will never damn depend on anybody.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, the song is so codependent. I mean, it's not really PC, but I do like the song on the record. It has a lightness.
Let's not be PC on this podcast, please.
Oh, all right.
Hello.
I fucking like this.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus.
I need to.
Hey, so.
Good for you for figuring it out, Jeremy. I was well into my 40s before I figured out that my disposition didn't need to depend on anybody else.
Well, yeah, I don't even want to talk about my 20s.
I'm still figuring that out.
Just for a little levity, you guys, I'm going to show you Frida Black right there. That's how I feel about
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
Okay, or Freda. I'm sorry, I said her name.
Can't unsee that.
Does it hurt?
Okay, rest in peace, Freda Black. Any thought, Bob? I don't think, Bob, give us the history of the song.
So if I want to be happy, I'm going to play me some Pharrell Williams, right? I mean, he can make me happy. That dude can make me happy.
What about John?
This song, not so much. It's on YouTube, and I would highly recommend you go listen to this. It's a lot of fun. 1927, the Six Hottentots recorded this one with a vocal. It's from a musical called Hit the Deck. And it's out there on YouTube. So your homework for tomorrow is go to YouTube and hit Sometimes I'm Happy by the Six Hottentots. You'll be glad you did. It's, of course, at 78 RPM. The guy drops the needle and you hear it. And it's so much fun. I mean, I love hearing this recording today when I was doing my research.
So you like the original better than Joni's version?
Oh, I forgot Joni's version. Did she do this version on this round? I forget.
Okay, moving onward. The next song, which I don't remember at all, is called Don't Worry About Me. Don't Worry About Me. Chris, I know you like this song.
I do like this song, but I didn't have my hand up.
I feel like you're the defender of all the songs that I don't remember at all. So sorry to put you on the spot. Okay, Mark, your hand is up.
Another one that Billie Holiday recorded, and this was on actually the last recording session she ever made in 1959, just a few months before her death.
Oh.
And actually, I think her voice sounded better. I just got the recording. It's called The Last Recordings. And I didn't buy it for a long time because the Lady in Satin, the voice was so deteriorated and I was not real fond of it. But this one, I think her voice sounds better. And she also recorded Sometimes I'm Happy on those last sessions, which I didn't even remember. I didn't know. And my brain just went out the window, I think. So maybe I should shut up.
You should never shut up. You should never shut up.
Tell that to my husband.
Okay, do we have any other thoughts on this song? Going once.
I don't want to leave it because I think it really deserves some more discussion, but I'm trying to, it's almost like I want to experience it in order to formulate a thought. I didn't come prepared with anything on it specifically, but
I was going to sing this one, but
could you sing one line of it to see if I can remember?
Okay.
Don't worry about me, I'll get along.
Oh, okay. I remember.
Forget about me.
Just be happy, my love. Let's say that our little show is over, and though the story ends. Oops, that was
Why
wrong.
not call it a day this sensible way and still be friends?
I cannot lie to you, my friends. This is ringing no bells. And I just listened to the album 2 days ago. Bob, who did the original?
1939. Les Brown and his orchestra with Miriam Shaw doing the vocal.
Was this the song that was in Lady Sings the Blues also, or?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. All right. Earlier in the podcast, Bob talked about songs that are done so many times by so many people that we wonder if they ever need to be done again. And with that, I lead us to our discussion of Joni Mitchell's version of Stormy Weather. How do we all feel about Joni's version? Mark. Oh, you're on mute.
This is the one song on the record that I have real trouble warming up to. And I don't know if it's the arrangement or Joni's delivery. I'm used to, like 3 versions of Stormy Weather. One is Judy Garland from Judy at Carnegie Hall, which is, Judy Garland, it's epic. It's epic. And the other 2 are from Lena Horne's The Lady and Her Music. The first one, she sings the way she did in the movie Stormy Weather from the 40s, and it's very precise and very contained, I would say. It's pretty. And then at the end of the show, she pulls out all the stops and she just sings the hell out of the song. So I'm used to these versions that are kind of like epics. They're and this one just, I don't know, the introduction at the beginning, when I think it's the strings come in and they sound real ominous, and that's fine. I can hear the storm's coming, but then I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel appropriate to the material. And I'm not sure why, and I'm probably full of it, but then we all know I am anyway. So
no more than the rest of us, my friend. No more than the rest of us. All right, we have Chris, we have Ruben, then we have Paz.
It's strange that Mark, that you just brought up the arrangement, because this is the one song that I don't believe that Vince Mendoza takes credit for the arrangement. This might have been the original arrangement back from whenever it, or an old arrangement back from Hollywood back in the 40s. Yes, Joni performed this at the Walden Woods, and yes, the AT&T album was titled Stormy Weather, almost to point you to that track. Is it something Bob said something earlier about, there are certain songs you just don't touch. And for me, this is the one that I wish she had never reached for. I mean, I think it was okay for Walden Woods, although, they didn't have to title the album Stormy Weather, so as to call attention to it. Do I wish she had found something else instead for her own record? Probably, I do. This is where this one loses it for me. It's a great song, no doubt about it, but it's owned by somebody else.
Chris, I've been on the Both Sides Now page at jonimitchell.com, and it does say that Stormy Weather was arranged by Vince Mendoza and a guy named Gordon Jenkins. So, yeah, that's the only song on the album that has collaboration.
Harold Arlen composed the music for Stormy Weather, and Ted Koehler was the lyricist. But anyway, Harold Arlen is my favorite composer of great American standards. I mean, he did Over the Rainbow and all the songs from The Wizard of Oz and Stormy Weather and Blues in the Night and I Got a Right to Sing the Blues, all these really, really great songs. And like Chris said, Stormy Weather is one of the all-time great standards. And I'm just used to hearing it done by other people in a different way, and then it just doesn't get me on this record.
Gordon Hill Jenkins was an American arranger, composer, and pianist who was influential in popular music in the 1940s and 1950s. He worked with the Andrews Sisters, Johnny Cash, the Weavers, Frank Sinatra, Louis Armstrong, Judy Garland, Nat King Cole, Billie Holiday, Harry Nilsson, Peggy Lee, and Ella Fitzgerald. So it seems to me that there's a lot pointing to the idea that this might have been a very, very older arrangement than, did Vince do something else to it? Yeah, certainly. But, I don't know that it was his alone.
It always sounded like it came from an older period of time, from something else. And I don't know.
All right, we have Ruben, then Paz.
There we go. I guess, yes, I like Joni's version. Did we need to hear a Joni Mitchell version of Stormy Weather when there are so many other more iconic ones? And I guess that wasn't the point of this record. She wasn't setting out to redefine all of these songs. It just seemed like, I don't know, there was an opportunity here that was missed. I guess with this whole record, there was sort of we never got to the point or something. I don't know. I feel more like I'm being more critical about it than I mean to, but no, we didn't need to hear a Stormy Weather from Joni Mitchell. There must have been a better one, a better song she could have picked for this particular point in the album that she could have gotten her teeth into.
All right, Paz.
Like the phone book,
Ouch.
She could have sang the fucking phone book, and I would have said, "Oh, that's an interesting take on that."
I'm kind of the same way. I don't know.
Or it actually would have been interesting, as opposed to.
I'm not sucking anybody's dick here. I'm just saying, hello, it's Joni Mitchell, and when I think about her, when I think about what she went through as an artist, it's just ridiculous for me to even judge her for picking songs. I love this version. I love the version on the AT&T one, which was a little different. I just pulled up Judy Garland's version, which I hadn't heard for in a while. But wow, different. That's all I'm saying. I mean, when I think of somebody like Joni and interpreting what we're talking about as an artist, I try to give people a little bit more latitude than, being somebody that's up her ass to say, "Oh, Joni, you can't do that song," or I'm your manager. I'm Sam somebody, or I'm Chris Christopherson, and I don't think you should do that. But I think she's always known what she wants to do, and I've appreciated it her whole career, even the ones that I didn't like, which was Chalk Mark and a Rainstorm, and
Oh, did I just hear an interesting album get mentioned? Because I haven't heard.
Yeah. Those weren't my favorite albums, although I did enjoy them because my wife enjoyed them, and we enjoyed them together, and there was shit that happened, together in those episodes that we were listening to the music together. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a hardcore Joni fan. I'll take a bullet for you, baby. Bring it on. Hey, she's got a new one coming.
I hope so. Just so we can all meet again and talk about it.
Exactly.
David, is your hand up from before, or do you have an additional comment?
It's up. I just think it's a great song, and so I like to hear Joni singing it, basically. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll just say that. I'm not sure I'm going to say that across the line for anybody, for everybody. There are lots of people who shouldn't cover songs because they don't make it any better. But, she's having a good time singing it, and I think that's fine.
Well, Bob, any thoughts on Stormy Weather before we have 2 songs left?
Some of the times when Joni was live with this show, and I saw her in Chastain Park in Atlanta, she would hit that high note in Stormy Weather, stormy weather. And after a couple of nights, she had to drop down to stormy weather because she couldn't hit that high note anymore. But this is a great song. Forgettable on this record. It was first recorded in 1933 from Leo Reisman Orchestra, and Mark Scott. We got to know that Harold Arlen did the vocals on the very first recording of this record. Yeah, it's a great song. To me, this is a Lena Horne song, and if you've seen Lena Horne sing this song, you shouldn't do it because Lena Horne sung this song.
That was her signature song.
Yeah. And so that's why I don't remember Joni's version of it, because like most of these songs, they're forgettable.
Yeah, I looked this one up online too, and Arlen and Ted Koehler were working at the Cotton Club at the time and writing songs for people that were performing there. And this was originally supposed to be for Cab Calloway, but he was on the road or something, so they gave it to Ethel Waters. And
yeah, well,
that wasn't the original recording. No,
Cab would have done stormy weather, 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 weather.
All right, Jim, your hand is up. Jim.
Okay. Yeah, there's something I want to say. I don't think anybody's touched on this yet. I hope I didn't miss it. But in the liner notes, it's pretty clear that this was a big collaboration between her paramour at the time and herself, and there was a big discussion about that Larry was picking a lot of the songs, and like, you got to do this one, you got to do that one, and
look who it is.
So we can't lay all this at Joni's feet, And secondly,
snacks. Yeah, if you enjoy it.
I'm getting bleed over from somebody else.
Yeah, who's unmuted? Okay.
Okay,
and the other thing is, who picked the songs? Where is that coming from?
Joni and Larry worked worked up the songs, right? I mean, isn't that the folklore? Bob?
Now, I was reading something that said that Joni and Larry Klein went through a whole shitload of songs before they finally settled on these.
I'll take a bullet to say that if she didn't have anything to do with every single song that was made on that record, sorry, it wasn't Larry that picked the songs. I don't think so. Prove me wrong, please, because he was given musical director of the album.
Yeah, I want to know who picked them so I know who to blame.
Jeremy, you're so bad.
Jim.
You're so bad.
We have not done our job here, Paz.
Well, the Paz has kind of called me out here. That's where I was going with this, is that I don't want to lay this whole collection at Joni's feet, you know. And the other thing is that it was kind of like Joni doing dress up, you know. It's like, I'm going to stand in front of an orchestra and I'm going to be the chirp. And so it was kind of like it was like maybe an easy album to make. You know what I mean? Like sure, we'll do that. Like a minimal amount of effort in doing this one. I don't know. Or maybe it's just me as a fan.
That's offensive.
Maybe it's just me as a fan wanting to excuse it. She didn't put a lot of herself into it.
Gotta call you out. That's offensive because you're talking about an iconic figure that has changed our lives in so many ways. And to me, for her to bend over and say, oh, I'm just going to do this thing because Larry wants to do it or because Vince wants to do it. No. She was driving that bus the whole way. And as far as I'm concerned, ching. Sorry.
And I agree with you, Paz, because she always did that.
Exactly. We're talking about Joni fucking Mitchell here. Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm glad I wasn't on the highway when she was driving that bus because someone fell asleep at the wheel.
Holy shit.
Jack,
I mean, she has top.
Sorry, Jim. I mean, I don't want to burst your bubble, or I just didn't go down that road.
Okay, and to redeem my worth here, I'll say this: that she did have top flight people on this. She's got Chuck Berghoff, she's got Peter Erskine, she's got Mark Isham, she's got Herbie on a couple, I guess.
Wayne,
some guy named Hearn, yeah. And then this guy named Wayne, who seems to be kind of a big figure in jazz. Who knew?
Who comes to the table and has a 72-piece orchestra?
Yeah.
And then brings their tribe with them. Name
Don't
one.
Don't cross me, Paz.
I'm not crossing you, baby.
I'm just saying this is a minor hit.
I know you're a Pauly guy, but we'll talk about Paul later in another dissertation.
And Jim, never any need to prove your worth because you contribute a lot. We're always glad to have you here. And second of all, she may have brought the people to the session, but she sure didn't bring the songs. Jack, it's your turn.
Oh!
I guess I have a question for Bob. Where he's basically saying, you've seen Lena Horne do this song, don't do it. You've seen, this person do this song, don't do it. And yet we've seen Joni Mitchell do Hajira, and we've seen Joni Mitchell do all these amazing songs, and you've practically made a career out of supporting the people who are covering these songs.
Well, yeah, that's a good call, but it's just out of interest, right? I mean, so many of these songs Joni nailed, but then again, you look at that song about the Midway, that's a Bonnie Raitt song, right?
Her version is great.
Urge for Going, you could contribute that to many, many other artists. But I mean, Jack, I totally agree with what you're saying. Joni nailed these songs; they're her songs. But for me, I want to hear interesting interpretations. For instance, Both Sides Now, which we'll discuss at some point in time if we continue, which I hope we will.
No, it's all crash and burn.
There's a very obscure an extremely obscure album. I managed to find on eBay a black artist named Orlando who played the harp. And he did a 7-minute version of Both Sides Now, him playing the harp and singing. And I put the record on my turntable, plugged into my DVD recorder, and I could barely see the signals on the recorder for my crying over his version of this song. Nobody else knows that Orlando recorded this amazing version of Both Sides Now. And of course, Joni did it great on Clouds. She has the iconic version on this record we're talking about now. And there's been 2,000 recordings of it since then, many of which have taken it into left field and beyond.
And
so,
Billy
yeah, that's a
Porter
great question. So, I mean, for me, it's just about fun. I love covers, right? I mean, I love covers. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. On this record, some of these covers work, some of them don't. So I'm consistent with my opinion about this record and where I'm at with my covers project. I mean, I've got volume 377 coming up, and there's a Both Sides Now cover, which is nothing but noise for like 7 minutes. And I'm like, I apologize. I didn't record this version. This band did, and it's awful. So, that's what a song, they can do whatever they want to with it.
I kind of love the cheesy ones sometimes, though.
Yeah. There's plenty of cheese. So, yeah. I mean, I love that comment, Jack.
Well, thanks for answering it, Bob.
All right, so we have 2 songs left on the album, and Sue has sent in a video of one of the versions. So let's pause and get this set up. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more performance tonight. Our friend Sue Tierney is here to do a version of the second to last song from Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now, which is called I Wish I Were in Love Again. Sue?
Awesome!
Wonderful, Sue, I loved it.
Oh, you're my thrill!
Are you fucking
That's a
kidding
fucking
me?
highlight right there.
Isn't that crazy?
That was awesome! You took it to the next level! My God, that was fabulous, Sue.
The thought that came to me for this song is that listening to this album is like walking through the desert and not having water, and then finally you find water. That's how I feel about this song. Like, finally there's a beat.
I know, yeah.
Wow.
Who was swinging it?
Yeah, Sue, that was awesome. Everyone did a great job. Everyone did a great job. The last time I'll probably ever hear these songs in my life. Okay. Jim, your hand is up first.
Sue, I've never heard you swing that hard.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I know, I got into
You
it.
were totally, that was like your singing performance of your lifetime, girl.
Yeah.
Really, that
She
was awesome.
did that on American Idol last night.
I think I have a future in karaoke, maybe. I don't know.
This
All right.
episode was not worthy of that performance. That was awesome.
I like this album's not worthy of Joni Mitchell. Okay, Mark, you're next. I hope I'm not taking the joy out of the album that for people that love it. Music opinions are just opinions, so my opinion means absolutely nothing.
We need both sides now, don't we?
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you did, and I love it. Mark, your hand is up.
This is a Rodgers and Hart song, and Rodgers and Hart are icons in that world of popular music, and I love the lyrics of this. They're so clever. I mean, when love congeals, it soon reveals the faint aroma, the forming seals, the double crossing of a pair of heels. I love it. And Sue, God, that was amazingly good. It was you really, really were swinging on that.
Definitely a highlight of the album and a highlight of all your performances, Sue. I thought it was wonderful. As always, though. But you worked it.
I think I was more spontaneous on it. That's why I think it worked,
Well, that's kind of one of the reasons why Joni recorded these was so that she could be spontaneous and she wasn't
trapped behind the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That or the piano or the dulcimer. One thing I noticed, well, actually, back during Mingus, when you'd see her in performance, she could never move her hands before because she was always playing something. And I think she kind of developed something as she went along. It was kind of foreign to her at first, and by the time she got here, she was really knew what she was doing. And the vocals, I think, on this album, for the most part, are great.
Makes me think of her version of Goodbye Pork Pie Hat from Shadows and Light. She's doing the hands, doing the thing.
Yeah.
All right, we have
Billie
Chris.
Holiday never moved her hands much, or her arms. There was one arm that kind of, she'd maybe snap her fingers and move her right arm a little bit. But anyway, enough about that.
Cool. We have Chris and then Bob.
Every time I saw her perform, I would always wash her hands because I would, when she wasn't playing. And, there were rare events that, she would actually not be playing something, but she'd be counting something with her hands. And I'd be trying to figure out what she was counting, and I could never, it didn't translate to following on piano or on guitar or anything. And I don't know what it is she does with her hands. I'd love to ask her that question someday. What is that movement you do when you're not? Anyway, the whole point of my raising my hand was just to say, Sue, that was fresh from the first word to the last word. You were absolutely awesome. That was fantastic. Because when I hear that arrangement, all I hear is that it is written for her and it's her phrasing and that's what's going to be there. And you changed it up all the way through it. And I am in awe of what you did there. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I loved it. All right, Bob.
Yeah, Sue, that was great. I will say, what made it great was that this song is fun to sing, unlike the previous 7 or 8 songs that were not fun to sing
or listen to.
So my dad, who follow me know, my dad will be 90 in August. He's still going strong. He's super healthy and happy. He has COVID now, but he'll get over that. He's to him, Richard Rodgers is to me what Joni Mitchell is. So when I got this CD, I played this track for him, and he was really happy that Joni Mitchell did a Rodgers and Hart song.
Aww.
He loves Rodgers and Hart. He quotes Rodgers and Hart a bunch. When I was a kid, we would sit and listen to Rodgers and Hart albums, the musicals they did, and my dad taught me the value of lyrics and words. That's why I love Joni, because of my dad and Rodgers and Hart.
That's so sweet.
It's a great testimony.
And so he heard this song and he really loved it. He said, yeah, she nailed the song. It's really, really pretty song. And it is. It's a great little jumpy song. And I was really happy to hear Joni do a Rodgers and Hart song. A little emotional, sorry.
No, I love it.
Daddy.
That's the thing about Joni is you never know when the thing's gonna hit you.
Yeah, and this for me, this song, of course, is the highlight.
Yeah, for many reasons.
She sings the song great. I saw her do this show in Chastain Park in Atlanta, and I think this particular song, maybe I'm wrong. Chris is more expert than me, but there were some songs where she struggled with lyrics, and I think this song was one she struggled with. And so she had the words in front of her. And when I saw her in Chastain Park, she got to a certain part in the song and she grabbed the lyric sheet and plugged it into space. Yeah. Am I right?
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
She carried that. She did several performances.
Yeah. And it was great. And then on those shows, there were what she did, Ludwig's tune and something else as bonus tracks on those concerts. One other song.
Wasn't it Hajira? Did she do Hajira?
What
I
was
think it
it?
was Hajira. I think it was Hajira. I remember Hajira being performed.
Maybe anyway. Yeah, I mean this song to me was a highlight because of my dad and what the song meant to him.
I think she did Judgment of the Moon and Stars, Be Cool, Hajira, and
For the Roses.
For the Roses.
Yeah. I think in Chastain Park, it was For the Roses and Judgment. She did it at Chastain Park.
Is Chastain Park the outdoor amphitheater?
Yeah.
I saw Buckingham McVie when they did their tour. I saw them at that
wow.
venue, and it was awesome. All right. Bob, thank you for sharing a beautiful memory and story. I love it. Do we have any other thoughts on this song?
Bob, what a fantastic segue for you to feel this way about this song and then go into Both Sides Now.
Yeah, sure, of course. My franchise.
You know what? I do think this is a good segue. So let's wrap this one up and get into the heavy hitter. Bob, is there any more history to this one? Oh, Jim, let's have Bob give the history, then we'll have Jim talk.
So the history is Rodgers and Hart wrote this for Babes in Arms, which my dad would tell you this. He knows this show backwards and forwards. Babes in Arms. It was sung first in 1937, Grace McDonald and Raleigh Pickert, but they didn't record it. The first recording was 1949 with, we all know, Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. Did Babes in Arms on record. Judy Garland, I would say, I think Mark Scott maybe knows Judy Garland.
There was a film actually.
Yeah. It was a recording.
Well, there was a film as well.
Yeah.
All right,
time
Jim.
it was recorded.
Did you have your hand up, Jim, to add something?
I had my hand up for the next song.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So we have one song left. It's the title track of the album. It's one of Joni's signature songs. It needs no introduction. Made a very famous version by Judy Collins, but how many other people covered it, Bob? 2,000?
Gee whiz, almost 2,000 now, like 1,800.
All right. Well, a song that needs no introduction. Both Sides Now. It was reinterpreted by Joni in an older and wiser way. Like I said, my favorite version of that happening was Marianne Faithfull's reinterpretation of As Tears Go By, but this is a close second for me. Okay, Jim, you had your hand up first, then we're going to do Chris and Mark going into this very important part of Joni's catalog, though.
Okay, so, wow. Yeah, so Both Sides Now it was written when she was in her early 20s, I guess, and she was kind of like looking forward into her golden years, and yet she was in her younger years, and
Right.
then now she's in her golden years, sort of like, or almost in her golden years, looking back on a song that she wrote in her 20 years, looking forward into her golden years.
Right.
And it's always been this sort of funhouse of life, and there aren't too many songwriters who write about the biggest topics that face any of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does it all frickin' mean? Like, why, like all of that. And so to see Joni listen to the intro for this song and sort of gather herself together and to quote Mueller, I was a pedal all the way through it. I don't even remember it all that well, except that I was just I was not on the earth with everybody else. You know, I was somewhere else.
Mhm.
You know, I was like up in heaven looking down on my whole life and looking on her life and looking at her career and looking at everybody in the place. And then I was back in my own life and back in my own shoes. And then I was bawling again. It was just completely moving. And then she did it on Letterman, and it was the same thing all over again. So it doesn't suck for me. No.
All right, we have Chris, and then Mark, and then Bob.
Well, I think that this is probably the single piece that is going to cement. If there's one recording that, you know, every government or every museum or every recorded medium hall would or should have in its collection, it is this particular recording of this particular song. I frankly didn't think her first, you know, the version on Clouds, did justice to it. I mean, it was a fine song. She closed the record with it. She knew it was a good song. There's no doubt about it. It was a huge hit for Judy Collins. So even if she didn't think it was that good a song, the record company probably said, yeah, but everybody knows Judy's version of it, so you need to put it on your record, and it needs to be your, you know, it needs to have a place of note. But this particular recording of it, it's ephemeral. It is diaphanous. It is so deep in so many ways that there's no way, if you are a thinking, feeling human being, you cannot be drawn in to the story and the universal truth that it shares. It is beyond brilliant. I'm sorry. I will go to the mat with anybody who tries to diss this one, because this is a brilliant, brilliant piece of music and composition. And she really, really nailed it on this one. With regard to the audience, to the orchestra falling apart and crying, the concertmaster for the London Symphony Orchestra was I knew him from working, at least being aware of his work on commercials, because he had done work with the Penguin Cafe Orchestra, whose tracks were used on many an IBM commercial. I mean, they're almost like tubular bells, kind of repetitive kind of things, at least the ones that were used commercially. But I was actually surprised to find out that he was the concertmaster on that orchestra. For those people who don't know what a concertmaster is basically the first violinist. They are probably the most hallowed individual within an orchestra other than the conductor. In terms of, I don't know why, I've never played in an orchestra, but I guess that in the absence of conductor signals, one looks to the concertmaster for some, clue as to what one needs to be doing. I don't know how it works, but anyway, I think this is an absolutely brilliant performance. It was honored in Vancouver when they did the Olympics. I mean, whether or not you enjoyed how it was, used in regard to the, there was I think a dancer suspended, hundreds of feet above the and there was all sorts of projections and things, and it was actually probably a magnificent visual if you were there. But the track, I think there was nothing else, no other piece of music could they have, that spoke at least to life in Canada or life of Canada or by a Canadian artist would have done it. So she was correctly honored to have participated in that event. But anyway, this is, for me, this is so worth beyond the price of admission, this particular track, that I would give this album a 10 just based on this one track.
All right, we have a lot of hands up. We have Mark, Bob, Ruben, Paz, and then Jack.
Well, I would agree with everything that Chris said. I think she recorded the definitive version of this song on this record. She put it away. This is mine. And I'm bringing to it everything that I have experienced in my life, all of the emotions that I have felt. Here it is. I'm laying it out for you. And I have created this thing of absolute beauty. I don't know what else to say about it. It's Chris said it all. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. It's beautiful.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, so this version on this record is iconic. It's incredible. Joni herself said that the song was meant to be sung by an older artist. She often said Mabel Mercer, when she heard Mabel Mercer do it in concert, that to hear an older woman do the song, it meant something to her. To hear, okay, finally I understand. I've looked at life from both sides now. I'm not 25. I'm in my 50s or 60s, and I've seen life from both sides now. And she understood that. And in this song, she sings it. The arrangement and the playing is just magnificent. It's iconic. It couldn't be better. And it has become the standard for this song. If you go to Amazon.com and type in Both Sides Now, this version will pop up first because it's the one everybody wants to hear.
Right.
Because Joni is on her game. You know, she is there and it's her song and she sings it the way it's supposed to be sung. And yeah, this is, you know, this makes the record. I mean, the last couple of songs in this album really make it, you know, make it doable for me, especially Both Sides Now. And this, even her later version of this inspired many covers of folks who wanted to cover the orchestral version, the slower version, you know, the 5-6 minute version of the song, not the 3 minute 20-second version, which happened so many times in 68, 69, 70.
Right.
But this 5-6 minute version, this took it slow and let them digest every word, all the melody, all the beauty of this perfect song. I mean, this song is perfect.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm out.
Seal's version in Joni 75 was patterned after this.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, and it was really, really good, but it was basically this version reinterpreted by Seal.
Yeah, and Billy Porter did the same thing. And
oh yeah, that was phenomenal too.
So amazing. Yeah.
All right, we have Ruben, then Paz, and then Jack.
I'm not going to talk too long. I echo everything everybody just said. And Jim, I really liked what you said about, I didn't hear this live. I wasn't able to go to those shows, but I liked what you said about being off the ground and thinking about her life and her career and your life and your experiences all at the same time. I was in the car today when I was listening to this, and I got through the first two verses, and then I pulled into the driveway and heard the final verse and the last chorus, and I was just weeping and weeping and weeping. And I've heard this written a lot, and it hits me the same way every time. And I think about her writing this at such a young age, and then reinterpreting it so many years later. And I have to think she said over the years that the experience of giving up her child at that young age really fueled so much of the art that came in the decades after. And I'm an adoptive parent. I have an adopted daughter, and I've been in that same adoption river, and I know how emotional it is as an adoptive parent to go through that process. I can't imagine what it would be like for the mother going through that at the same time. And so all these things are going through my head, and they reunite, and then they have this falling out. And it always comes back to that one situation for me when I hear this song, and the fact that she was able to pull all of that out into this perfect 3-line song in her early 20s is just mind-blowing to me, and is able to reinterpret it 3 decades later, however many years later, even with even more gravity, is just remarkable. She is a remarkable artist. She really is.
Yes.
Wasn't this a song on Archives where she's like, "Oh, I wrote this 2 days ago"? Was it this song?
Yeah.
Yeah. And here we are sitting with it in 2022. All right, we have pause.
Shade tapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, and that's beautiful. I feel the same way as a lot of you have said. My difference is that when I first heard this song, I loved it from the beginning. I realized the magnitude of it. The version that she sang as a young adult was one version, and I've heard a million versions, and the one that we heard at Music Cares, Billy Porter just fucking crushed it. It was some ungodly interpretation of this epic song. But this version, for me, the drawn out version, as you say, it's so exquisite, and it doesn't detract from the fact that the woman, once again, is Joni Mitchell. I don't know if you know her name or not. She is by far, in my opinion, my favorite artist of all time. And I work with some amazing artists right now. I invite you to experience John Cleary, who is in the center of my life right now, and I love him dearly. And he's aware of Joni Mitchell, but he's studying New Orleans piano players and New Orleans music. But oh my God, I experienced the same thing that I experienced with Joni as I do with him. I'm in this business because I love music, and I'm blessed and honored to be a part of this industry, and to have been in Joni's sphere, been in John Cleary's sphere, been all of your spheres. Honored to be here with you guys, interpreting music and loving music. Love you all.
Much love, my brother. Aw. Jack.
So I agree. This is an absolutely fantastic version, and I kind of want to tell a story about it. Shortly after this album came out, I saw Diana Krall in concert, and she does a gorgeous version of A Case of You. Anyway, after the concert was over, they played this song as people were leaving the auditorium. And people actually stopped leaving the auditorium and stood there until the song finished. And it was just such a cool moment. And people were like, what is this? What is this? Is this Diana? And what's that?
The orchestral version? The song from Both Sides Now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And people didn't know what it was. They're like, who is this? Is this Diana Krall? And I happened to have had the album already, and I says, no, this is actually Joni has done a new version of this song, with the full orchestra, and people just stood there and listened to it.
Wow!
And when the song was over, they continued leaving the theater. It was a really, really cool moment.
You represented. Thank you.
I love it. All right, we have Sue and then Chris.
So funny how this whole discussion has gone, to come to this song and like all of us being so awed by it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, one of the great joys of my life was starting to learn Joni Mitchell's songs. And there's something about this song that I almost use it as a meditation, just the guitar and playing it and singing it. And it's just, I mean, it's transforming, I think it gets down, it's a meditation on how to hold like sadness and joy at the same time, and we have to do that kind of stuff every day,
Mm-hmm.
It's like that whole line about you leave them laughing as you go, it's like I really don't know love at all, because here I am, I'm thinking love is like, Junes and moons, and then you actually experience it and find out how painful it is, And you're right, I mean, after all she was leaving Chuck Mitchell when she wrote it, She already knew she was leaving him. So it was part of this whole, transition she was making. It's like there's this really poignant I can't remember what book it was in, but where she's in the apartment in Detroit, and she knows she's leaving. They both know that they're breaking up, and she turns to him and she goes, "I think I'm going to be famous. I can feel it, and I have to do this," And to think about that, like as a jumping off point of I've just written all these songs, things are happening. I'm leaving you and I'm going to New York City, and we'll see what happens. But she knew it was like jumping off a cliff, And this song is really all about it, all about it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have to do it. It's like, what can you do? You're living, Yeah, I mean, and a lot of her songs are that type of thing. I just sit there and I go, "Holy shit!" She just cut through. I was talking. So David Yaffe has this platform now where he writes. It's called Substack or something like that. It's some kind of writers forum, and he was writing about Joni the other day, talking about the For the Roses album. And so I said, well, I love For the Roses too, mostly because Woman of Heart and Mind, where she says, all this talk about holiness now, how does it go?
Must be the start of the latest style.
Start of the latest style.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you. And so I wrote to him and I said, she has such an amazing bullshit radar. She just in that one line, she cuts through, who you kidding, basically, and it's not so much, the relationship or anything. It's just like, she not only does that to a person, she does it to herself too. The bullshit radar, and so I don't know, man. It's like me too, from the first time I listened to Court and Spark, this lady has been like blowing my mind every fucking day. And
Amen, sister.
It just keeps going. I'm right now involved in trying to get more content onto the guitar page, and you pick out the songs and start to play them.
You're crushing it.
Shit. Holy shit. It's amazing.
Thank you, Sue. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well,
all right, Chris.
I agree with Sue's interpretation, especially of being meditative. I have used this particular arrangement to just completely sort of go to a really quiet and wonderful place, during, when I was commuting to New York, because I'd be on the train, it would be very smooth, linear movement. And, the clouds and the fog would be often echoed over the river as I would go down the trip. And it just sort of echoed what the music was speaking. I can't say more about really what this song has meant to me. I think that it takes us all to a place where we are reminded that we are individual and we are temporary and we are fragile. And all of that comes together all in this one brilliant piece of art. And if there's one piece that we really deserve to share with others, this is really the one, I think.
All right. Do we lose Bob?
Looks like it.
Man, he hung out with us till just 5 minutes before we end up.
Crotchety old men don't die. They just fade away. Love you, Bob.
Yeah, we love Bob. Do we have any final thoughts on both sides now? I have nothing to add on top of what everyone said. This is such an iconic performance that the song speaks for itself.
I just wanted to
performance, Jeremy.
What's that?
Of both sides now. I mean, of all there's a billion versions out there, but what's your favorite version?
Oh, probably this one.
Right.
Yeah, this is the definitive.
Pretty
take.
crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody mentioned. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I've always liked that old Judy Collins version. It was the first one I heard as a kid, and even though it's got that pretty peppy arrangement, there's a darkness to it that always has resonated with me.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a beautiful version.
Yeah, I like Judy's version. Mark, did you have something to add before we wrap up?
I don't know that anybody addressed the final lines of each verse, or I really don't know.
Right.
I really don't know clouds. I really don't know love. I really don't know life. After all of this, everything that I've been through, and here she is. I don't know how old was she when she recorded this, in her late 50s, and she's still saying, "I really don't know," which is kind of a confession, but also it's human, and in some ways it's a good thing, because if we really don't know, we've got more to experience and more to learn and more to discover.
Like she said in Hijira, we all come and go unknown, right?
No.
I
want to say this.
Go ahead, Paz.
Jeremy, thank you for doing what you're doing. Wow, it's such an amazing space that you've created. I know you do this with a lot of other artists and friends, but this is a safe space for us, and we thank you so much for what you've done. And I've looked at it from many sides now, and thanks to you, I've opened my palette of what to appreciate about Joni Mitchell. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. This has been fucking awesome, for lack of a better word. All right, we have Jim, Jack, and then Chris.
Okay, I just wanted to piggyback on what was said already, and that's that. That ultimately she really doesn't know life at all, or love at all, and all that. And actually, if you start from "I really don't know at all," well, then you've got the whole duality thing, which is like the eagle and the serpent are at war in me.
Yeah.
And all those different manifestations that she's given us over the years of that duality. Ultimately, it comes back to, I really don't know.
Hell if I know.
It's a beautiful thing. Life is for learning. Yeah, I could go on all night.
If I know.
Thank you.
All right, Jack.
Yeah, I just want to kind of play off of the, Joni recording this as an older woman, and sort of feeding off. I mentioned off camera earlier that this past week or so I had seen a Joni tribute of Blue and Mingus, where they played both albums and entirely, and they had two different singers. One singer did Blue and one singer did Mingus. And the woman who did Blue was probably in her mid to upper 50s. And hearing those songs from someone of that age, like hearing Little Green from a woman of that age, and that it was like just devastating. She had me in tears. I think there's something it's amazing how well these songs that she wrote as a young woman can correlate to someone of an older age. And, I think obviously her Both Sides Now is the ultimate example of that. But having just seen Blue done by an older woman, I can say that a lot of those early songs translate very well to someone more mature. Anyway, that's all.
All right, Chris.
Very quickly, I just, Michael has said most of what I wanted to say, which was really to say thank you very much, Jeremy, for creating this space for us. It really is a beautiful, beautiful environment for us to come together and talk about an artist that we dearly love. And the last thing I'm going to add is I'm just going to say that I had the great opportunity in my life to have witnessed Joni Mitchell perform this performance of this song with an orchestra 4 times. And I am so enriched by having seen that situation. I can't begin to describe it completely. Thank you so much, everybody.
I feel like the work we're doing here is very important because not only will the songs last forever, but how the songs affected people that lived as they came out. We will always, this will be the story of that will be preserved forever. And I think that's really important to tell that story. So thank you all for telling that story alongside of me.
Just remembered something while we were talking. The TNT tribute, she did Both Sides Now at the end of that with the orchestra. And I just remembered that.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was one of the 4.
Mm-hmm. Really? Wow.
Well, friends, the time has come to give this album a rating.
Oh, no.
Scale of 1 to 10. Now, Dave and Robin gave it a 10 or 11 or 100. They love this album. They couldn't be here, but they left us their ranking. I really wish Bob was still here to give his ranking because I'm dying to know what it is.
That's probably why he left.
Absolutely.
Coward.
Somehow I think you need to get that rating and put it in the comments section.
Yeah. Bob, when you're watching this, put it in the comments because all the viewers want to know. So we're going to go in order of my panels. Paz, you're first. Scale of 1 to 10. Both sides now.
I mean, come on. Really? Okay. I'm not going to be a suck up. I'll give it a 9.5.
All right.
Love it.
Mark, you're next.
I'm going to give it a 9.
All right. Sue. Oh, you're
muted.
muted.
I'm going to give it an 8 because, I mean, I would give it a 10 just for the last song. But there are certain songs on here that I don't think work. So.
All right, David, you're next.
I'm going with Sue, but I'm going to give it a 9.5 actually because there are songs that don't work, but I do think Both Sides Now brings it up. Just compensates for that so much. So.
All right, Ruben.
I would say 9.5. Even with the slow spot in the middle, it's a great record.
All right, Chris.
10, all the way. This album bridges the 20th and 21st century. It absolutely does. And not only that, it just reminds us where our hearts are and how they're connected to our minds.
All right, Jack.
I'm I'm gonna give it a 9. Yeah, a solid 9, even though it's not something that I play very often. I think the accomplishment of it, especially the last song, just even doing it at this point in her career, I think it was a pretty bold move. Though she's always been full of bold moves.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll give it a 9.
All right, Jim.
Thank God she sequenced it the way she did. So some parts of it, I agree with Sue. Some parts of it don't work for me at all. I mean, like, they don't work for me at all. And yet the last song is a 9, 100, 1,000, trillion. So that pulls it up. I can't really come up with a grade for the whole thing. So it's a question mark for me. I'm out.
All right, the moment everyone's been waiting for. The Jeremy Gloff ranking. Both sides.
Oh.
Now, me and my friends have a joke that when there's only one good song on an album, we call it like the Both Sides Now CD single. And everything else are the B-sides. But so I'm going to give it 2 rankings. I give Joni's version of Both Sides Now on this album, of course, a 10. It's the definitive version. You can't dispute it. But as a whole album, I give it a 2. I just think she's just jacking herself off, doing songs from her youth, and I really don't care. Like, I think it's boring. I think the songs she picked just aren't great songs, whether she's singing or anybody. There's a handful that have been done by 8 million other people. I didn't need Joni's version. So there we go.
Can I just say one thing, Jeremy?
You can say whatever you want.
At some point, you do actually get to jerk yourself off.
Of course.
That only you would appreciate the effort that you're putting into that. And so, however.
And we can all agree, if anyone's earned the right to make that album, it's certainly Joni Mitchell. Certainly Joni Mitchell.
Exactly. Hello. Thank you.
I almost think you can't rate this one on the same scale as the others that have all original Jonis.
I call bullshit on that right now.
Now, point of reference, I gave Chalkmark a 10, if we all remember.
She's an artist.
Oh, my God.
She's an artist. She did Chalkmark. She did Dog Eat Dog. She did Hijira. She did Both Sides Now.
I love Dancing Clown. I'm not ashamed of it.
Coming up soon, she did Shine. And I want to invite somebody like a professional to come talk about Shine with us.
And a little preview. I love Shine.
Yeah. So this person does too. And I had a hot and cold relationship with it, but I still appreciate it on the whole because I've grown with this artist.
Yeah.
I mean, I've grown up with this artist. That's all I can say about that.
Who is this artist?
Shut the fuck up.
All right. Well, my friends, this may have been the longest of all the Joni Mitchell podcasts. If not, it's close to. I will try to go back and edit out the false starts and get this up. I'll try to get it up as fast as I can. So I'm going to leave you guys with this one more time.
Oh, God.
And much love to my Joni Mitchell friends. This is one for the books, isn't it? This has been one of the best we ever had in its own way. Joni, if you're watching this with Randy Carlisle sitting next to you, I love you, and please know that I gave Chalkmark and Dog Eat Dog a 10. Yeah, really. So I'm in your corner in other places.
All right. Bob Mueller has been captured by aliens.
Try another. Okay, so I will see you all to discuss Travelogue next month, right?
Yeah.
We have a date?
Yeah, we do have a date.
Bye, everybody. Love you.
I'll send out an email.
Bye.
Love y'all.
Love you all.
Bye.